All right, what's up, everybody? And welcome to SIFTD's Game of the Year Awards for 2024. This is our ninth year? Yeah, I guess it's our ninth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, well,
Next year will be but I think it's our eighth. And I did one with Marcus, right? Or did I even do one with Marcus?
You didn't do it with Marcus because he bailed
right,
like
before
14,
E3.
14 episodes in.
That's true. This is our ninth, I think. And the next year will be our 10th. Because next year is a 10th year of SIFTD.
No, this year's our 10th.
Is it?
Yeah, one per year. So this is the 10th one, and the next one
would be 11th. You're right. Yeah. It's kind of like counting centuries.
Yeah.
It's the same deal. But anyway, here we are for our 10th anniversary of the SIFTD Video Game Game of the Year Awards. We have 25 categories today. And generally how we've stacked them is a lot of the genre awards are first. So like best first-person shooter, best adventure game, blah, blah, blah. And then as we get towards the end, we get towards some of the more fun categories. Now, one thing we're going to do a little bit differently this year that we haven't done in the past is we used to spend a ton of time on the genre stuff. And then we get to the end of the awards and we'd run out of time. We'd have to rush through like the game of the year, our most anticipated games and stuff like that. So we're going to do it differently this time. We're going to go real quick through the genre stuff, the early stuff. And then that will give us a little bit more time for the really fun awards that you guys really care about towards the end. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. But again, we have 25 awards. We have a lot to get to. We don't want to waste a lot of time. Let's just get to them. But before we do, Matt, any overarching impressions, opinions before we start getting into our picks?
I don't think so. Like I said on the other show, like it was a good year. A lot of good games, not really a lot of great ones.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of weighing to be done here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't struggle between this or that much.
So I told him before we went live today that I made a first pass, and I was like, surely I'm going to change a lot of my first pass as I start doing research. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing research, and I'm like, wait a minute, I think I nailed this, so I'm going to do more research. And I spent so much time like digging through stuff, and ultimately, first blush was kind of accurate.
Yeah, there was one category I really struggled to come up with an actual winner, because there was a lot of stuff that I played that was good in a lot of these categories. It doesn't mean I wanted to give them an award for anything.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've ever had trouble with this one category, and we'll get to it.
Yep.
But I was surprised by the category that gave me the most trouble.
Next year, I think, is going to be real tough.
Next year, I think, is going to be a much more crowded field.
Yeah, for sure.
Of overachievers.
But still, ultimately, it was a pretty damn good year of video games. And thanks for going along with the ride with us. I think as you share this show with us, you'll start to see as well, like, wow, there's actually a lot of really good games. But to Matt's point, nothing that's like burning the house down. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to start things off with everyone's favorite genre, particularly with core gamers. And that is the best first-person shooter. That's what you guys care about.
I'm going to submit a request that this become best shooter in the future.
Really? So we can... So
I can award some of the games I actually played. Because in this... I played 2 first-person shooters this year, and it was the one that I picked to win because it's the only one other than... but then I was looking through all the other... I did play a fair amount of shooters, but they're all third-person. Mm-hmm. And, like... I tried to Google like first-person shooters 2024 just to make sure I didn't miss any that I did play, and everything that comes up is just third-person shooters.
There aren't any.
Like they don't do this anymore.
There aren't a lot of first-person shooters anymore. And here's the.
And I didn't like really want to count Indiana Jones because it's not really a first-person shooter. It's
so.
I guess you shoot things in first person, but that's not like I wouldn't call that the same thing.
Here's what I do for these awards to prepare for these. I use SIFTD. So just go to SIFTD and just go to the search and just search reviews and then search by whatever genre. And it will just boom, show you the reviews for that genre for the whole year. First person shooter, Matt, there were 3 reviews. One was X Defiant and the other 2 are the games we're about to talk about. There were the genre is like dying. I don't know if it's Call of Duty. It's just like squeezed everybody out, or people are like, everyone's just going to buy Call of Duty. They're not going to buy other shooter. I don't know. But this genre has like disappeared.
Most people want to see their character.
You're right. I think you're right. And so
the biggest pushback I get on Indiana Jones recommending it to people is they're like, yeah, but it's first person.
Wow.
Like even like total like casual, just like I'll play usually whatever they'll play whatever I recommend. Usually this when I ask me like what should I play, what should I get my kids, and every time I've said Indiana Jones, like yeah, but isn't that first person? and like people just don't like it.
It's
They want to be able to
bizarre.
see the character.
Yep. First-person shooter is a dying genre, believe it or not. Even though it's the best-selling genre in the world, it is still a dying genre. Other publishers and developers just aren't doing it. So, Matt, what was your pick for best first-person shooter of 2024?
Yeah, my pick was Stalker 2.
Yeah.
Because I played two first-person shooters, and it was this and Call of Duty, and I like this better than Call of Duty, so here you go.
Yeah.
If it was just a flat shooter, I probably would have given it to Space Marine 2.
Would you?
Just talking about shooters.
Just so you guys know, for us, third-person shooters fall into the action-adventure category.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to lobby to change that
Okay.
next year if we have another year where there's just no
Right.
first-person shooters
I hear ya.
to speak of. But again, this actually does kind of fall into the category of like, I liked it, but I don't want to really give it an award.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
But like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It'll get better as they kind of work their way through the patches and figure things out. It is what it is. It is Stalker. I mean, it's very true to what Stalker has always been. So credit where credit is due there. It looks great. It's kind of
broken.
It's kind of broken. It's kind of relevant because it's in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it's about that very much. There's a lot of political subtext in this game. That's not fun to see necessarily, but it feels like they made some statements on what they were living through while they were making this.
For
Which
sure.
is always an interesting thing to see, and what art should really be about in a lot of ways. And yeah, I look forward to getting through more of this when more of it
they fix it.
more of it works properly. But yeah, I liked it better than Call of Duty, so this wins.
And you know what I'm going to pick, because I did not like Stalker more than Call of Duty, and my pick is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. One of the better campaigns in Call of Duty for quite a while. Still not, still not on no Russian level, but still a really good campaign. But for me, this pick is just the breadth of the game. I can understand why some people may like the campaign in Stalker 2 better than the campaign in Call of Duty. They're entirely different types of games and with different tones and all that kind of stuff. And I can understand why you want to just support Stalker 2 because of what the developers went through while developing it. But the breadth of this game, like this suite that is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, is just gigantic. And every part of it is great. Not amazing, but great. I'm still playing competitive multiplayer, even though the cheating, once again, has really started to take over. It's really gotten bad really fast, which sucks. And that's what tends to make me stop playing Call of Duty multiplayer. After the first couple months, the cheaters start playing, and I just lose my allure to play. I'm still playing it. I am also still dipping into zombies, because I think it may be the best zombies mode ever made, in all honesty. It is kind of the perfect blend between what they've been trying to do with the zombies mode and what made it so popular in the first place when it first launched. So all three tenets of Black Ops 6 are great. Again, not amazing, but great. That package, to me, it's hard to beat. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of publishers and developers just bowing out, because they're like, man, Activision / Microsoft / Xbox, they're dedicating 3 studios to this game every year. Most publishers can't afford to do that, and for most publishers, that would be a really stupid strategy. But when you're selling 25 to 30 million copies of Call of Duty, plus all the money you're making off all the corny DLC that they do with all the weird skins and pop culture crossovers, you can see kind of why it is the game that it is. But to me, hands down, easily, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was the best first-person shooter of 2024. But to Matt's point, and kind of my point as well, it's not like there's a whole lot of competition these days. So it is kind of crazy. I mean, I remember it used to be I was waffling between 5 or 6 different first-person shooters for the best shooter of the year. Now it's almost a done deal before the year even starts. There just aren't that many games in the genre anymore. So for me, easily, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, best first-person shooter of 2024. Next up, Matt, best multiplayer game, and this obviously spans the gamut. Can be shooters, can be racing games, can be anything. What multiplayer game really caught your eye this year?
Helldivers 2.
Helldivers 2. One of the surprise hits of 2024.
I mean, obviously I don't play multiplayer a ton, but probably I played this more than anything else that came out this year. The thing I played multiplayer the most online was probably Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
But that wasn't this year.
Yeah.
And still going strong.
It's still going more than strong.
Finally added the third enemy faction at the Game Awards.
Yep.
The androids, rather the aliens. Which they have some really cool sound design.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They've done a good job on the post-launch support of this game. they keep their fans engaged big time.
Oh yeah, and it keeps a mystery, and they there's some misinformation now
Yeah,
and then.
intentionally.
It's all very ARG.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I know a lot of people that are playing it, like they're much, people I wouldn't expect to be playing online shooters, but they're super into it. Like, so they definitely reached out past your expected audience for this game. Obvious from the sales.
The crazy part is like a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's because it's like Starship Troopers," but there was a Starship Troopers shooter that launched this year that pales in comparison to the success of this game.
There is something about this, maybe because it's not first person.
Yeah.
There's something about this that really speaks to people. And maybe because it has variety. I mean, if you don't want to fight bugs anymore, you can go fight robots.
Yeah.
And now you can go fight aliens. Too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's got, it really leans into the kind of the satire of propaganda and fascism that Starship Troopers did, but doesn't really. It's kind of it's soaked in it in a way that the Starship Troopers game isn't.
Yeah.
Really, like it is the whole premise, and they lean way further into it and way more over the top than even Starship.
Even
Troopers
on
does.
social media and everything, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, if they carry the shtick all the way to the goal line.
They carry the shtick all the way to the intro to the alien reveal on the Game Awards stage.
Yeah.
Where the guy came out in full armor.
That's right.
And said, talked about the latest update in managed democracy.
Yeah.
And all that, they really have a winning formula here.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Like presentationally and gameplay wise.
Yeah. Okay. My pick, you guys aren't going to be surprised by this at all because of my last pick, but my pick for best multiplayer game of 2024 is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's now been, I don't know, about a month and a half, 2 months. I'm still playing the multiplayer. I'm still playing all elements of the multiplayer. What I found now is that I'm starting to dive into new modes. And one thing that they do that kind of pisses me off at times, but also is kind of brilliant and smart, is that in this game, in the multiplayer in this game, you can choose which modes you want to sort by. So they'll have a list of 20 different modes. You can toggle them all on or off, and then you can search for a match. And a lot of times I'll only have like 2 things turned on. I'll have like team deathmatch and like big team battle, something like that. Every once in a while you boot up the game and they will go in and screw with your list. They will add things to your list that you're not supposed to. And the first time you play, you don't realize it, and you end up in a game mode that you had no interest in playing. But you're like, well, I'm here, I might as well play it. And then you find out that some of these freaking game modes that they're putting into this game are pretty genius. So this year, more than any other, I've really started to explore the depths of the multiplayer options in this game, and they are vast and varied. And if you do just want to stick with domination and team deathmatch, it's great for that as well. The other thing I like about this game compared to last year's game is it launched with all new maps. Last year's game launched with like a dozen maps, but they were all reworked versions of old Call of Duty maps. This game has way more original content in it, and I do like the new maps. So, and as always, the new movement system in this, the omnidirectional movement, has changed things. The more I've played, the better I've got at that, and the more I actually utilize it in combat. When I first started playing, I didn't think it made that much of a difference. I still don't think it makes a gigantic difference, but it definitely will give you an edge if you master the omnidirectional movement. So lots of changes, tons of content. They've kept the new content coming. Already we've got a bunch of DLC content, and the game's only been out for like a month. So for me, best multiplayer game of 2024 is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Next up, best adventure game. This was another genre that I really struggled to find nominees for. There just weren't a lot of point-and-click adventure or adventure-style games this year.
Yeah, and I didn't play a lot of them, of the ones that did come out.
Why do you think that is, Matt?
Sometimes just as you played them,
yeah.
Or I didn't know that they were coming out, and we on the show, you're like, oh, I played this thing, and then I'm like, well, I don't need to play it because you already talked about it.
Yeah, just so you know, sometimes like Matt and I will coordinate before we do GameFace, and if like it's a really busy week and like we can't play everything, we'll work together. I'll be like, well, okay, I'm already on this, I'll play this, maybe you can play this other thing, and so sometimes we don't always get to play the same games.
And often I don't go back and play those because there's only so much
time. You gotta
time
move on to the
life.
next, yeah.
So like I didn't play The New Life is Strange. I didn't play Indica. I didn't play one of the other ones you did earlier in the year. I just never got around to. I actually bought Indica, but I just never got to
really?
it. Yeah, because what you said about it sounded good. But
Yeah.
Again, so there's a lot of stuff I didn't get to in this genre. There's stuff that I would maybe consider this genre, but it's more, like I would say like Chronicles of Ava could be that.
Yeah, it's borderline.
It's like,
yeah,
it's not the combat. There's no real combat in it. It's just more like exploration. But in the end, I kind of went with something that stood out to me from earlier in the year as an actual mainline adventure game, and that is Botany Manor, or as I thought until I finally Googled it and remembered what the title was, that one with the plants.
Yeah.
I did actually go all the way through this one in the end, which is unusual for me in a puzzle style, like slow paced thing, cozy gamey kind of thing. I thought this was very clever. There's a lot of interesting, like the story was interesting. The characters you learn about, the old lady who was sort of too independent for her time sort of thing was a good story. And the puzzles were not annoying and mostly made sense, but did escalate admirably. And I think a lot of people probably forgot about this one.
Yeah, because it was pretty early in the year.
It was first half of the year, I want to say.
Was it on Game Pass? I don't remember, actually.
I think it was.
I think it was.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And I kept going through. Conveniently, the Steam your Steam account will show everything you played in reverse release date order. So I just scrolled through to look at everything I played.
That's helpful.
Every once in a while, I saw something like, that was in April?
It's hard to believe.
It
seemed like it was 3 years ago.
Yeah. It seems like 3 years ago, but it also seems like way more recent.
Right, last week.
So yeah, I thought this was in terms of the adventure world, and I might change my mind if I play some of those other ones later. Certainly, there have been games I played this year that came out, long before, and
you definitely go back and play older games way more than I do.
Yeah,
for sure.
or even stuff we'll get to one of the categories where the best thing I played in that genre this year was something that came out in 2018.
Yeah,
but so it obviously can't win for this year, but it was very good. I just hadn't heard of it until now.
Yeah. Okay, so my pick, and somebody already guessed it in chat, actually, my pick for the best adventure game of 2024 is Indica. And Matt hinted at it already. It is a bizarre, I totally forgot about this part of the game. There's these weird, video gamey moments in this game where it's just like, what? Indica is a game that follows a nun in Russia. And she is sent from her monastery, or what's it called? A convent, I guess.
Convent, yeah.
To deliver something to another convent, basically. And the story of the game is her trip from her location to her ultimate destination and the things that happen in between. And ultimately, the game doesn't even really become about the trip anymore, or become about the destination anymore. It becomes about all the people that she meets and the things that happen while she's on that trip. And it is kind of hard to describe. I'll say this. I have been emboldened by the fact that so many people have reached out to me about this game because they watched me talk about it on GameFace and then went and bought it and were very happy that they did. This is one of those games that you probably can find now for maybe 10 or 15 bucks.
It's more than that.
Is it?
But I would keep an eye on it for whatever the Steam, the holiday sale is.
Yeah. As the holidays go on, you may be able to find this pretty cheap, and that's when I would recommend you jump on it and buy it. But I promise you, you've never played a game like Indica. Again, you saw at the beginning there's those weird little video gamey things. There's so many surprises in this game. It's one of those games where things happen and you're like, wait a minute. If I've moved to an alternate dimension, or is this a part of her world, or is it inside her mind? It's one of those kind of games. Mechanically, it's very light. It is an adventure game, not an action adventure game. But it is very clever in the things that it does make you do. It does it to make a point. So this scene that you're seeing right now, this evil woman at the convent tells her to fill up this water bucket. And the game makes you go back and forth 10 times with this water bucket. And then in the end, the woman just spills the water and is basically like, F you. And it's F the player. That's the type of game that this is. I know when I describe it, you're a nun and you're walking through the snow or whatever. It doesn't sound very exciting or interesting. Trust me, it is. This is this stuff.
Yeah, I saw an article once a while ago that described this as a game that bullies you for playing it.
Yeah, it does. As a player, you feel bullied,
which is
sure.
thematically part of what it's intentionally
it
doing.
wants to elicit that response from the player. It is really great, really clever, will catch you off guard over and over and over again. My pick for the best adventure game of 2024 is Indica. All right, next up, best RPG, one of the biggest categories that we have, honestly. And I tend to see this one a little bit early because we try to mix it up to make sure it keeps your interest as we go with how we stack the show. Another great year for RPGs, Matt. It is the most popular genre in the industry at this point by a wide margin. It is generally the bulk of the big budget games that come out every year, but that doesn't mean that they're the best games. And what is your pick for the best RPG of 2024?
This was a tough one just because I played a lot of RPGs. There were a lot of RPGs, but it was one of those categories where I'm like, which one did I like enough to give an award to?
Yeah.
And there weren't a whole lot. So I ended up going with the one that I played the longest, and the one that kind of spoke to me most, which was Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes.
Yeah.
The Suikoden-alike.
Yeah. We waited a long time for it.
I probably put 70, 80 hours into this.
Oh, man.
And again, like probably not like the most amazing thing of the year in terms of, presentation or music was very good. We don't have a music category this year.
We don't actually. We probably should.
Music was very good. The story is pretty good. But it was, it was a spiritual successor to Suikoden that actually lived up to itself for the most part, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that. And kept going on this, and doubly pleasantly because originally I played it because I got my PS5 copy first, the code for that first, because the Steam codes were delayed for the Kickstarter.
Right.
And so I was playing it on PS5 originally, and then the Steam code showed up, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm only like 20 hours in, I can redo that. And I loaded it up, and it loaded up my cross save.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, hey, I'm right where I love. Look at you.
That's
Look
great.
at you thinking ahead. Look at that. I was so
That's
happy
awesome.
with that. So that's one of the reasons I played it more, was I was able to switch platforms so soon.
And not have to start over. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was very, very happy with this one. I'll be honest, it was so long ago, I don't remember a lot of specifics about it because it was like March or April or something, June.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
No, this is very good. I would encourage people who are willing to play a more PS1, PS2 oriented 2D
Traditional JRPG.
With kind of the epic war story aspect. I would encourage you not to miss this one.
I love the art, the animation in this too.
It's a really good, like, it's just a really smart way of updating how Suikoden 1 and 2 did things without losing that, but without feeling archaic.
Yeah, it's a great game. I'll admit I was a little surprised it was your pick.
I didn't like anything else a lot this year. There was like, I thought, like Metaphor's good. There were some action RPGs that I liked, but they didn't really like sing to me. Like I didn't love Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Yeah.
It's basically like this. I just kind of went with this because I'm like, well, I played this one way longer than anything.
That means something.
That must mean that it pulled me in a different way. So that's where I went with it.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. My pick is for very much the same reasons. My pick for the best RPG of 2024 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I never thought I would ever say this in my life, Matt. Seriously, I am not a Final Fantasy guy. Like, I never have. I mean, sure, the 16-bit, 8-bit ones, yeah. But since they went 3D, I have not been a Final Fantasy guy at all. I wasn't even a big fan of Final Fantasy VII. I always thought it was, like, overblown and overrated. But this game, to your point, I ended up playing this game for, like, 60 hours. And I think a big part of it for me...
you kind of have to if you want to get anywhere.
You do. But I think for me, a big part of it was the game does a good job of never falling into a rut. I felt like there was always something new happening around every corner in this game. And there was a lot of gameplay variety in this too. As far as like the things that there's like little mini games tucked around where you're like hurting stuff. There's chocobo racing. There's just always something to do around every corner that's different from what you had been doing before. And I just got completely sucked up and enraptured in this game, and I just couldn't stop playing. And I played it for like 60 hours again. I wouldn't say I hated the first Final Fantasy VII remake.
I would.
But I got like 14 hours into it, and I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. This game just took me by the hand and just led me into Final Fantasy land, and I just got totally hooked on it. The plot and the characters, not amazing. But I think they did a pretty good job repurposing what they had before. It was enough to keep me interested and caring about the characters.
I've only played the demo of this. That was enough for me. But I did appreciate the take on set, because one of the things that has always confused me about Final Fantasy VII, which I always found to be a pretty average game at best, was like all the stuff people talk about, the various things with the different characters, and I'm like, where was that?
Yeah,
and it wasn't. There was, and like this game kind of took what all the kind of fan ideas and interpretations and mythologies and alternate like supplemental materials and light novels and everything they'd done with Sephiroth in the intervening 27 years, and kind of baked that all into the portrayal of the character, even in the demo. And I was like, okay, I understand why Sephiroth is seen. Playing the demo of this, I was like, I think I understand why Sephiroth is seen as like a big heroic sort of role model in this universe, in this world, and why because he is pretty charismatic and he does seem like a pretty nice dude until and I thought they did that pretty well in a way that was subtle enough that it honestly surprised me from Square, because Square doesn't do that. Like, I would expect Square to be more of a, like, he would be glowing and Bishonen and would just constantly be saying things like it's like heroism is the needing of da-da-da, and I was like, oh, Sephiroth. But instead, he's just sort of like a pretty cool dude. Yeah. And, like, it kind of worked. So,
I would say that this game, in my opinion, tackles the most interesting parts of the plot from Final Fantasy VII. It doesn't have the moment that everybody talks about from Final Fantasy VII. I think it has the most interesting parts of the plot. It gets you from the open to that end stage where all the really big crazy stuff happens. I really enjoyed the plot in this. The plot in the first remake, I didn't care at all.
Yeah.
It just lost me after 14 hours, and after I fought a couple bosses, I was like, no. This game, I also felt like the balancing was a lot better as far as like a gradual scale up of difficulty. I like the combat in this game. It was way more active. I enjoyed it a lot more, even though it's basically the same as it was in the remake. For whatever reason, I enjoyed playing as these characters a lot more than I did in the first game. I just got sucked into this game, and I just loved it, and I never thought I would ever say that about this before the year started. So my pick for RPG of 2024 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Can you believe that?
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will get around to this around the time that we're imminently getting the next one, and I'm like, oh, I better play that one so I can play the next one, and then I won't play the next one.
And you'll do the same cycle again.
Do the same thing
except
again.
That's the last one, and you'll just never play it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am curious because they have flat out said you will be able to fly the high wind anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
okay.
All right.
we'll see how that works.
I'm very eager to see how you pull that one off.
I mean, I'll say this: I am in for the third one. I'm like excited to play the third one because I played it through this whole thing, and like the way they've structured the plot and
maybe I'll play the PC version.
Yeah, which will look way better
now that they announced that.
Yeah, it'll look even better. That's the other thing too. The game's gorgeous. It's one of the best looking PS5 games of the year. So,
and actually one of the biggest jumps for the PS4 5 Pro.
Yeah,
like the Pro actually makes the performance mode on this on the normal PS5 is a little. Cloud doesn't have a face anymore if he's standing more than 20 feet away from the camera, and now it's all very razor sharp on the Pro. So that's, if you like this game, I'd say that's one of the best reasons to get a PS5 Pro right now.
Yeah. El Guapo says, I felt like it had the same padded quest across multiple locations, but it's a good game overall. I mean, I'll say one thing. I didn't dive into the side quests as much.
Yeah, well, even once in a while, I would see people who loved this game at the time, at some point, with something to just tweet like, please don't introduce any more mini games. Stop making me play mini games.
But see, I like that. I thought it broke up like the monotony of the combat.
Right, but I saw people that were saying like the mini games have become the monotony. And I want to get back to the game.
I can see that a little bit. Yeah,
like 2/3, 3/4 through the game, people were like, "Can I just get to the end, please?"
It's a big game too, and sometimes it felt intimidating playing it because you knew, if you know the story, you know how they're structuring these remakes. You knew like how much longer you had to go.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, there you go. Next up, best indie game of 2024, and this is one that Matt and I both agree on, and I think the whole world is probably going to agree on it too, and that is Balatro. This is not the last time you're going to hear from Balatro in our Game of the Year awards. I don't know if we have to explain why this is the indie game of the year. We just ran B-roll in our last episode of GameFace showing how the creator of this was too shy to show up at the Game Awards to accept his award. That just endears me to this project all the more. Now I'll say this. If you really didn't want to have notoriety, you probably shouldn't have sold a video game.
Or you maybe shouldn't have made one of the best games of the year.
Yeah.
That was your big mistake.
For those of you who don't know, Balatro is a roguelike poker game. It's genius, pretty much. It really is genius. Like, he really hit lightning in a bottle here. Now, I do feel like we're kind of getting into this era, Matt, where everything is like this genre, but roguelike. And it can be very easy to assign maybe more revere to something like this when you really think about it. Because right now, if you're a developer, you should be sitting there saying, what genre has not gone roguelike yet? And you should make that damn game. Because you're probably going to do very well if you make the game decently.
And the answer is racing.
It is. That's one of them. Yeah. Or sports games. They haven't made a sports game that's a but
yeah.
So I tried.
Yeah, also, the chat, Squishy Muffin points out, do you recall I played the demo of this like 2 weeks before it came out in like February or January, and I said on the show, this is your first game of the year now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You did, absolutely. You knew it right from the first time you played it, for sure.
I don't play a lot of demos for 40 hours.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I think a lot of people have been caught off guard. I've recommended this game to a lot of my friends, and they begrudgingly either would get it or wouldn't get it, and I'd follow up with them and be, hey, what do you think of Balatro? Oh, I actually didn't get that. You should get it.
Yeah.
The people who did get it...
Can't talk Balatro.
Yeah, the people who did get it were like, oh, dude, like, wow.
Like I haven't seen some people this addicted to a game since Bejeweled came out.
Yeah. I have friends who travel a lot. Those are the people you should recommend this game to.
Yeah.
Because there's, like, it's just a great time waster.
And be aware that some of the synergy you can get in this game is insane. I mean, you look at, you're seeing hands played to get up to like, big blinds of 450 or whatever. Like the blinds get into the 75, 100,000 range very easily.
Yeah.
And there are people who are so good at this game that their scores for one hand can go into scientific notation.
Right.
Like it's crazy.
It really is crazy.
The sky is literally the limit on this game.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's rewarding when you start hitting those numbers.
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of the most genius designs I've seen ever.
It really is. Yeah.
It seems simple, but it'll keep you busy forever. It's a horrible one more time before I go to bed.
This game will last forever.
You put this on your phone, you're never going to sleep.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's got a weird, sinister vibe. It's all really good.
It really is. Yep. I was skeptical when you first brought that up. I'm like, really, a roguelike poker game? Like, I kind of like poker, but it doesn't even matter. Like whether you love poker,
you don't need to know anything about poker except what the hands are, and it tells you what they all are.
Yeah. You don't have to like poker to love this game.
This thing just got a Peggy 18 for gambling.
But
because they saw cards. There's no gambling in this game at all.
Yeah, there's none.
It's nothing.
That shows you how pathetic the ratings boards are. Wow.
Meanwhile, it's weird how Madden and EA Football Club don't get.
Yeah.
They
literally have gambling.
Peggy 3.
Yeah. It's crazy. Anyway,
and the guy who made Balatro pointed out, that was his tweet. He's like, maybe we can slap a Peggy 18 on EA Football Club since they have literal gambling loot boxes in them.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, Australia got it right and rated both this and Football Club 18.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I don't know what everyone sees playing cards and assumes gambling. There is no gambling in this.
No, there's not.
There's no anything, nothing
no
to money.
No monetization, or nothing.
There's
There's no money
nothing.
involved. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, this
You're not
is
even playing against anybody. There's no poker here. It's just poker hands used for obscene multipliers.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's all scoring. Yeah. So anyway, if anyone tells you that the indie game of the year wasn't Balatro, they're wrong. They really are wrong.
Yeah, they're trying to sell you something.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're not your friend.
Yep. Next up, best action adventure. We kind of talked about this a couple minutes ago, how we generally throw third-person shooters into action adventure. So that's certainly a contender. Could be a third-person shooter.
It's a very broad category.
It is. Yeah, and it used to be for a long time there were no entries in this other than third-person shooters. And really this year it was kind of the same thing, but there was one exception. And it turned out that exception is the game that we both chose, and that is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And this is one of the easiest awards from the entire list. This is the prototypical action-adventure. Like, when you think about this genre across the decades of video gameism,
if action-adventure has a name, it must be, for
Indiana
once,
Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Seriously. It has great variety. It has action. It has stealth. It has great, really interesting combat, interesting traversal, a great story, great voice acting, great writing. It has it all. Great graphics. One of the best looking games of 2024 as well. It's great to play a game like this. I wish there were more games like this, Matt. I wish we got more games like this. Next year, it looks like Mafia is going to be one of those games. It's really a traditional, old school action adventure. I'm okay playing linear games, Matt. I am okay with that. Every game doesn't have to be some open world opus where I can go anywhere and do anything. I'm okay with a skilled development studio holding me by the hand and taking me through an experience that they want me to experience. And that's what this game is. Like, it's just great. And I'm glad that we are able to do our awards in such a way that we're able to recognize this game in 2024. Because next year is amazing, and any award show or awards that did not recognize it this year, it probably won't get recognized next year. It just won't. So I'm glad we do our awards the way that we do them so that we can reward this game with its just desserts, because it is great. It is worth getting Game Pass for a month to play this game, people. Spend the $20, get Game Pass for a month, and play this game. It may take you the whole month to play this game, because it's a big game. That's the other thing. It's not like you think a lot of action adventures from like the early aughts. You're like, oh, they're 8 to 14 hours long. No. Like this one, like if you really squeeze it for all it's worth, you can get like around 30 hours out of this game.
Or more, I would say.
Yeah.
Most people seem to spend almost 10 hours in the first location.
Yeah, in the first location. Yeah. So anyway,
and I was wrong about the stuff with like where like the trailers didn't seem like it made it seem like there weren't like the big chases and the big action things. It's like there are a bunch of big huge set piece. Like there's a fist fight on the wing of a plane at one point. So no, it definitely.
Oh yeah, there's turret
checks
sections
all the boxes.
And yeah.
It is probably the third best Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like after Raiders and Crusade, I would say this is slots right there.
Yeah. It's really
and it's a good companion piece to them because it takes place between Raiders and Crusade, and it also deals with like the Judeo-Christian mythology stuff and Nazis trying to get their hands on it for the sake of power.
Right.
So it actually fits very
right
well.
in there.
It's actually kind of makes a better trilogy than Temple.
Yep, absolutely. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a great video game, and our action adventure of the year for 2024. Next up, a category I only vote on, Matt.
Yeah, I didn't play anything here.
Some year, I hope you'll be able to join me in this category, but it wasn't this year for Best Sports Game. It's all me, and I think it has been all me maybe every year.
Yeah.
Have you ever picked the Best Sports Game?
I think
maybe once.
I think maybe... I don't know. Did they do a tennis game one year?
I seem to remember there was one year where you actually made a pick for this, but I can't remember which one it was.
I just don't play sports games.
Yeah. Well, I do. I play pretty much all of them. And this year it was a very, very easy pick.
I think I picked the show a couple of times.
I think you did.
When the road to the show mode
that's
was
exactly
good.
what it was. Yep. Mr. Jack 535. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. And my pick for this, you guys probably already know. If you're a sports game player, you know that this pick was very easy this year. And my pick is College Football 25. Maybe the greatest comeback in the history of sports video games. Not that they happen all that often, but this game was completely gone for like a decade. And you wonder, they bring it back, and like, is it going to just be a Madden with college skin? No. This game was better than Madden, which I might argue is a mistake, to be fair. Although, I'm not sure, actually, whether there are more college football fans or NFL fans in America. I do not know that data, now that I think about it. It might be college, because college is regional. And so you have some states that don't have NFL teams where maybe people don't care about NFL teams at all, but there's 5 colleges nearby, and they probably care about those. So I know in Pennsylvania and Central PA, definitely people care more about Penn State than they do about pro football in a lot of cases. So it's sold through the roof, and for good reason. Like, they brought this thing back, and it was better than ever. Like, I expected there to be a bare bones game where you got maybe, like, the franchise mode, which in college obviously is different because you're recruiting and doing all that kind of stuff. And then maybe, like, online play. This game came with more modes than the last NCAA football did, which I think was NCAA 13? I can't remember. 13 or 14. But anyway, excellent game across the board. Also, very low on bugs. Even back when EA was putting out this franchise every single season, it would have tons of bugs in it, where you get, like, into your 4th season of trying to turn Temple into a national power, and your whole, like, team would just crash, and you'd lose.
The last time they made this game before this one, like, a lot of these players were, like, 7.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're children. Yeah. What an amazing comeback. This game is legit. Like, it's worthy of the review scores it got. It's worthy of the sales that it got. If you are a college football fan and you have not got this game yet, Ask for it for Christmas. Ask for it for whatever you celebrate over the holidays. It is that good. So it's really crazy that this franchise comes out of nowhere and is considerably better than Madden. And I would argue that maybe EA needs to rejigger things a little bit and try to figure out how to dedicate a little more resources to Madden, because in my opinion, this year's Madden was borderline bad. So it's crazy that college football has become their best franchise, but I mean, some people may argue FIFA might be their best sports game. I disagree, but that game has become really stagnant.
Chat points out how crazy it is that this wasn't even nominated at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Because they were so busy, it's too international.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Like,
college football is definitely an American thing. I mean, American football in general
American football in general,
but
college
football
is like a
especially.
subset of that.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, easily best sports game.
No one's sending Auburn over to play Oxford.
No.
Although I would maybe watch that.
I'd probably watch that. Yep. So anyway, there you go. Best sports game of 2024. Easy pick for me. College Football 25 from EA. Next up, best platformer. And I'll give you one guess on what the winner of this is in 5, 4, 3, 2. Astrobot. It's very simple. Just one game of the year at the Game Awards. I've seen a bunch of people arguing that it shouldn't be Game of the Year because it hasn't sold very well.
The fuck does that have to do with anything?
It's just so... Our society has just become so stupid. It's really sad what has happened to the average person at this point. But who cares how much it sold? Although I do care. And here's the thing. Like, you people haven't bought this. I don't know what Matt and I have to tell you to go buy this game. Like... Matt, do you think some people are just like, oh, it's a cutesy game for kids, and so I'm not going to buy it? Do you think that's what's going on here?
I'm sure some people are.
Get over it.
And some people, I'm sure, they don't really see a platformer as something, certainly not in the post, it's not, whoa. It's not the N64 anymore, People aren't keen to pay full price for a platformer. They think they're short little nothing games. That is not what this is. This is a full size, full length, full everything, and you better be fucking ready for some of these challenge levels game.
I'm just wondering what Nintendo's gonna do. I seriously wonder if Nintendo saw this game and saw the response to it and is now reworking the next 3D Mario game. I really wonder that, because it's better than the last 3D Mario game. It is. It's better than Super Mario Odyssey.
It is better than Odyssey.
It is.
For sure.
There's no doubt about it.
I wouldn't say it's better than Galaxy.
No, it's not better than Galaxy 2 either.
But it is better than anything Mario's done in a long time.
In a while, yeah. And that's crazy. They paid respect to Nintendo at the Game Awards. I
cannot imagine Nintendo will react in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I was being facetious. Nintendo will just release whatever it's worked on. But I do wonder if they saw this and they're like, oh, okay. We have some competition now, which it hasn't had in a really, really long time.
I mean, competition in terms of kind of quality. The Mario game is going to sell multiple times what it's sold.
I can't believe this has only sold 1.5 million units.
It should be selling Spider-Man numbers.
It's sad, really. But that doesn't mean that the game's not great.
And to be fair, a lot of people don't even know this exists.
Yeah, you're right.
I've told a lot of my friends, because they've asked, everyone asked me for game recommendations for Christmas, and I'm like, with kids, I'm like, Astrobot.
That's it.
If you don't already have it. And they're like, what's that? And I was like, exactly.
It's the answer to all your problems.
Yeah.
It really is. And I
have had a couple friends that were depressed and sad, especially after the early November. For some reason. And I got them Astrobot. I'm just play this for a while. You'll feel better. I promise.
You will feel better.
You really will feel better.
This is what I am buying all my nieces and nephews for the holidays. When I go back to Pennsylvania, I'm going to go to a GameStop or a Walmart, and I'm going to buy 6 copies of this game. That's what
Sadly, I already gave it away. Gave out the information, so I'm like, I think everybody back home already has this. So I'm like, well, I got to come up with something else to get everybody now.
Yeah.
I should have just said, oh, I don't know.
And it really is a great gift because...
But everybody needed an Astrobot around the end of this year.
They did, for sure. And it appeals to everybody. If you're the dude sitting there, I want to play Gears of War and Call of Duty, I guarantee you this game will make you smile. I guarantee it. I don't know how people can play this game and not be overcome with joy at certain very specific parts of...
even if you don't care about all the PlayStation references, all the the various VIP bots and stuff, just making him run around is fun.
I mean, you realize, Matt,
the music is great. It's a joy of a game.
I mean, you realize that all the people in our chat, we have not convinced to buy this game. They haven't bought it. Because if they had bought it, it would have sold more than 1.5 million units.
I don't think that many people watch us.
I mean, but I'm just saying, like, no, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, if we had done our jobs, or I think done our jobs, more people in our community would be playing it and would be talking about it. But they're not. It sold 1.5 million units, and it needs to sell a lot more. So I will be buying a lot of Astrobot over the holidays, and you should seriously think about it as well. Let's see. Next up, another genre that really feels like it's dying. Best driving game. Matt, there were like two
Not a lot.
driving games this year.
So this is the one I was talking about. Like, the best driving game I played this year was Slipstream. But that's an Outrun-like kind of vaporwave-styled game. But that came out in 2018.
Yeah.
So it's not eligible for this year. But if you haven't played Slipstream, it's like $15 on Steam. Probably less if you wait for the holiday sale. If you like Outrun, it's amazing. It's great. Like, go get Slipstream.
All right.
But,
well, unfortunately,
that's not relevant here. Yeah. Like, that's all.
Unfortunately, we had to pick games in 2024, and there was really just one viable game to choose, and so we both chose the same one, and that is Pacific Drive, which isn't even really like
which
a
feels
driving
like a cheat.
game.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, driving is a very important part of the game,
Yeah.
but it's certainly not what you normally think of when you think of a driving game.
It's not like you're racing other people from one spot to another. That's not what it's about.
It's a survival horror.
Yeah. I like that. Did you make that up?
Yeah, just now.
That's awesome.
I wish I thought of that when we actually reviewed this.
It is not, you don't race in this. You are just like driving this jalopy that you gradually improve and build up through like these crazy like weather anomalies, basically. The only other real driving game this year was Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, which could have been great, but it launched a complete buggy disaster.
Like, other than that, you're kind of in the realm of like games that had drivable vehicles.
Stuff in them. Did the game have a vehicle?
Like, I don't know, like Caravan Sandwich or Sandland
or
things
Black
like that,
Ops 6 and like Warzone. Like, seriously, that's where we're kind of at. Like, but I'll say at the same time, Matt, like, I didn't remove this category because I felt like this game was worth recognizing.
Yeah, this is kind of the only place I could find for this.
Yeah. It's an adventure game-ish.
And it was very early. It was like the end of January or something?
Like we described it as like a driving adventure on SIFTD.
Like, it's kind of been forgotten a little bit.
Yeah, it has. But this is a very interesting game. You can probably find this pretty cheap now too, I would argue. But it's one of those games where it's all about like kind of building the relationship with the car. Like the car is kind of the character, the lead protagonist in this in a lot of ways. And again, like after you got on your sorties, you go back to the garage and you can upgrade it and increase its durability and things like that. Like, again, you end up building a relationship with the car. But calling it a driving game, a little bit of a stretch. But in 2024, that's about as good as we got. Squishy Muffin says I would have picked F124. But this year's F1 game it really didn't add hardly anything new that the last years hadn't had. And that's what happens when EA buys Codemasters.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. So our pick for the best driving game of 2024 is Pacific Drive. Next up, best fighting game. Also not a great year for fighting games, particularly after last year, which was incredible, honestly.
Well, a lot of big stuff came out last year to the point that they're busy.
Yeah. And my winner in particular, I think, was the benefactor of all the big fighting games coming out last year, but your pick is a little different.
Yeah, mine is different because it's not really a new game. It's more of a resurrection.
Yeah.
So I really just went with the best new fighting thing I played this year, which was Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection.
Yeah.
Which is a bunch of old games, but they're good versions of them. They took a lot of care in bringing over the right ones and giving you the options to patch this bug or remove this. Probably most prominently, the people were complaining that they removed the Juggernaut glitch in MVC2. The only way Juggernaut is competitive, he has that ability where he powers up and glows red, and you get his next hit does double damage. But it'll go away if you hit. It'll go away if you miss. It'll go away if you get hit too hard. Like so there was a glitch in the original version. The only way to make him viable is if you do that move and then you tag him out. He will get that ability, that power up will never go away. So he's just doing double damage now, just by default. But it's the only advantage he has.
Right.
So that glitch was fixed in the version they put out in this collection,
unquote, yeah.
And everyone complained. and a week later they put a patch up with an option to turn the Juggernaut glitch on and off. That is how responsive they are.
That's great.
And then in the extras and stuff, there's tons of making of and concept. There's concept art and design docs that no one has ever seen before from these games. Like there's tons of new. If you're a hardcore fan of these games, there's a ton of behind the scenes stuff in here that no one had ever seen before. And that's really because a lot of times that is the part of these collections that gets really short shrifted. Is like here's a bunch of box covers, here's like the key art of all the characters, and you're done. They went above and beyond to put in some stuff that the people who have been fans of these games for 2 decades and more like have never seen. I mean, the X-Men game is 30 years old. And there's stuff in there that no one had ever seen before from
That's
it.
great.
And that's amazing. So and look, you've got the hitbox. I mean, everything is that you could ever want from these games is in here. And for a series that has basically been off the table for so long because of licensing and just the way kind of trends have gone. That for them to just come out of nowhere with this thing and just be like, here you go. Like, we did everything you could possibly want here.
Hopefully this is a hint at something
and
to come.
The ability to play these games online against other players for the first time ever, outside of that arcade 1-up cabinet, which I do have as well. Like, even for someone who already has these games in that kind of pseudo-arcade form in the arcade 1-up, this is a better collection. This is a better way to play them. Fantastic.
All right. So I'll admit that's the best fighting game of the year, but I had an issue giving it to old games. And again, I think it's a personal preference on whether you're okay doing that or not. I felt like I needed to give it to a game that released for the first time in 2024, and for me, that was Tekken 8. But again, pretty much by default, this was not a great year for fighting game releases. Last year was incredible. I would argue maybe one of them or two of them maybe should have shifted it to this year. I think that's maybe what Tekken did, which was smart because now I'm handing it Fighting Game of the Year. If it had released last year, it wouldn't. Street Fighter 6 would have still won Fighting Game of the Year. But they shifted it. It came out early in 2024, and by default, really, it's the Fighting Game of the Year. And it's not a bad game by any stretch.
No,
I
will admit that I forgot this came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just not
I don't care about Tekken. I've never liked Tekken.
That's what I was about to say. I'm not a gigantic Tekken fan anyway. Although back in the PS1 era, I really enjoyed it. But as time has gone on and I've learned what makes a good or a bad fighting game, I've kind of fallen away from Tekken across the years. But to me, it's the one new fighting game that did come out this year, and it also is pretty good. It's not a bad game, not amazing, but not bad. I enjoyed the time that I spent with it, but I'll admit I haven't continued to play it. I've gone back to playing Street Fighter 6 as my sort of daily driver for fighting games. But I still play a little bit of Mortal Kombat 1 here and there if I just want that kind of vibe. But Tekken has not stuck with me. Tekken 8 hasn't, but it's still a solid fighting game, and in my opinion, the best new fighting game of 2024. So it is my fighting game, my pick for the best fighting game of 2024. Next up, best strategy game.
Also a little thin on the ground.
Yeah. And I'll say there, and I'm going to sort of give my runner-up. And I don't do this very often because we only have runner-ups for like a couple categories. But in this one, I wanted to mention it because there was a really good strategy-ish game that came out this year that we won't really recognize any other way. And it is a strategy game, but it's really a strategy RPG.
Yeah, this was also probably, it was kind of between this one and the other one.
Yeah, so the other one I'm talking about, my runner-up, is Unicorn Overlord.
Unicorn Overlord was very good.
It was very good, but it is a strategy RPG, so I don't feel like it's fair to give it best strategy game of 2024. But I did want to bring it up because a lot of people will watch these roundups and try to figure out, like, what games did I miss this year that maybe I should buy, and now I can buy for cheap? Buy this. Buy Unicorn Overlord. If you like RPGs, strategy RPGs, JRPGs, whatever, it's Vanillaware's latest game. They're legendary for a reason. This game is incredible, but it is a strategy RPG and not a straight-up strategy game. So, our pick for best strategy game of 2024, we both agree on, and it is Path of the Goddess. I didn't know we could have.
I'm glad I didn't go for what I was going to say, Kunitsugami.
Yeah, I knew we wouldn't be able to say that one together at the same time because it's hard to figure out which one you're going to say. But this is this crazy tower defense game from Capcom where you're literally escorting this goddess from point A to point B while she's being attacked by waves of enemies, and you set up your units along the path, and they defend her until she gets to the end, and then she purifies the shrine. You move on to the next area, rinse and repeat.
And I would say in the same way that Unicorn Overlord is an RPG as well, this is also an action game.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real pure strategy game that broke through for me. I didn't play Sins of the Solar Empire 2. I didn't think Homeworld really measured up that much. I didn't play Frostpunk 2. There's some stuff, but like this is what kind of thing that stood out. And again, maybe I'm biased more towards action stuff, so I think the fact that this lets me correct my strategy shortcomings by just hitting stuff
with some
really
hacking
hard
and slashing,
that really helps get me through it. It was also a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
I agree with that. I also like to recognize games like this if we can, if it makes sense, and it's earned it. Because there is no other game like this that was released in 2024.
It's real fucking weird in a way that actually works for it.
I can't believe Capcom gave this game the green light. But again, we're starting to see Capcom do these vanity projects where it's just like, you know what? This game's probably not going to set the sales charts on fire, but we just want to do it.
Yeah, maybe this is the thing that should have indicated that they'd be willing to do Okami 2.
Seriously. Yep. If you're going to do this game, Okami 2 is a no-brainer. It really is. But this is another one of those games that probably slipped under a lot of people's radar in 2024. Again, it's called Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess.
Also another good argument for Game Pass.
Yep. And I don't think it's still on Game Pass, though.
I don't remember.
I think it's gone now. But if you like tower defense, this is the coolest tower defense game I've ever played. That's probably the best way I can describe it. And to Matt's point, it is also active. So you can also jump in and hack and slash and defend the princess as well, the goddess as well. It's not just all about your units. You can pitch in and help where your units fail. So one of the more unique and innovative and interesting games of 2024 is our strategy game of 2024. Next up, Best Live Service Game. This is our chance to reward ongoing games, whether they've been going on for 10 years and they had a really good season, or whether they're a new game that just came out this year. Matt, what's your pick? And I know in general we hate picking winners for this category because we just don't like it that much.
Yeah, I mean, I was again tempted to just give it to No Man's Sky because they keep putting free updates out every 2 months or something. But in the end, in terms of as a service, if you want to say the word service matters, I had to go with Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, it's been a good year. It's first year.
Regular updates. They're doing that SNK crossover, which is something people wanted forever.
Yeah.
It shows a lot of initiative on Capcom's part that wasn't really there during Street Fighter V until it had
They're
to
working
be.
with Japanese partners.
It just feels like they're being very proactive about things here where they weren't last time.
Yeah.
And that's nice to see.
It is. I mean, I like to see it working with SNK and these other fighting game companies to get their characters into Street Fighter and making them work well inside Street Fighter.
Yeah, it feels like they kind of learned from the guest character thing in Mortal Kombat, but they're actually doing it better.
They are. They actually are. I think so anyway.
They're taking too long.
Well, I also enjoy playing the game a lot more than...
Yeah, no, that's very
that
true.
helps as well.
Very true.
But yeah, for its first year as a service, because this is going to go on for another like 3 or 4 years, would be my guess.
It'll be a while.
And we'll see what they're like in year 3. But year 1 was pretty damn good. And again, even here they're working cross Capcom with Monster Hunter and stuff like that. So I think they've been very smart with how they've handled all the post-launch support for Street Fighter 6 so far. And of course, the core game was our fighting game of the year as well. So hard to go wrong when you have the core that's really strong and really great. And you start adding in interesting characters that we all care about. It's a recipe for a winner. My pick for Best Service Game of 2024 is a new game, and that is Marvel Rivals. We just reviewed this in last week's episode. I talked about how much I loved it. I talked about how it is now my go-to hero shooter because it has heroes that I love and care about, and I feel like they've done a great job representing those characters in this game. Now, maybe this goes a little bit against the grain of a service game because it hasn't really hit the service part yet. But what they offer at launch with like 30 playable characters, all for free, that you don't even really have to unlock all that much. For me, the way that they've started this game, they started it off on the wrong foot, and they have pledged, we'll see if they actually hold to it or not, they have pledged to not charge...
Foot.
What'd you say?
Started off on the right foot.
What did I say?
You said wrong foot.
Oh, sorry. Start off on the right foot. And they have pledged to not ever charge for new fighters, which I think is the way that they should do it. I think every character in these games should be free, and you should just be paying for cosmetics. Now, granted, if you look at some of the industry leaders like League of Legends, they don't really do it that way, but that's something that drove me crazy about League of Legends. Like, If I want to play as a character, I should be able to play as that character. And then if I like that character, I should be able to buy the cool skins that I want for that character. I think that's the way these games work best. That's the way Marvel Rivals is doing it. Also very strong out of the gate. 5 or 6 maps, 30 characters, synergies between the characters. Honestly, I don't see myself ever playing Overwatch again now that I have Marvel Rivals. It is my favorite hero.
It was a little surprising to me. I guess I'd forgotten. It was a little surprising to me to see a list of the Game of the Year Game Awards winners and see that Overwatch had won Game of the Year back in the day.
It is hard to
believe. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
What a zeitgeist shift.
It really is. But anyway, if you have yet to download Marvel Rivals, it's a free-to-play game. It doesn't cost you anything. The client's only like 30 gigs, I think, if I remember correctly. I think it's a great choice. If you're looking for your hero shooter and you're a fan of Marvel, give it a go. And I think you'll be like me, and you'll probably never play any of those other hero shooters again. I just think, for me, I'm a big Marvel fan. I have been pretty much my entire life, and I've been kind of waiting for this game for a long time, and they did a very good job executing on it. So, for me, my pick for Service Game of the Year is Marvel Rivals. Next up, best story. This is always the one that I never know what you're going to pick, and you never know what I'm going to pick. But I'll say this, your pick was my runner-up. So somehow we ended up on the same place.
This was the hard. This is the one I was talking about, that it took me it was the hardest pick, because I don't think there was a lot of standout writing this year in games.
I was disappointed ultimately in the story in Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Yeah, I like it, but I didn't think it was the strongest.
I agree.
It certainly wasn't Mass Effect level.
Nope.
I think it was better than Dragon. Wouldn't say it's the worst story in Dragon Age.
No.
But it didn't quite get there for me. And I had to. I was kind of defaulting to it for this category, but then I had to go through everything I'd played and kind of think about who stood out and which game could I think about and recall the story, recall the characters, and remember that they actually impacted me or affected me, or I really went through that game really wanting to know what happened next. And the only game that stood out in that regard was Banisher's Ghosts of Eden.
It's freaking great.
Ghosts of New Eden.
Yeah, it's great. That's the best part of this game, was the plot and the writing and the character. The characters in this were so freaking believable.
Yeah. Again, Don't Nod doing a really good job at what they do.
I feel like this game is just going to get lost in the ether. Like, it's just one of those releases.
I think it has been. 100% has been. This is an early game. It was like February or something.
This game deserves better than it got as far as the number of players that played.
It also deserved better gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, part of the thing was, I was one of the things here was like, why did I keep playing this game? Because I wanted to find out what happened. Not because I was particularly enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah. The combat wore out its welcome pretty quickly.
It really wore out its welcome a bit, yeah. And it became it was really a competition. In the end, I think it was a competition between this and I didn't get all the way through it, and I can't even remember the name of it now. But it was that oil rig game.
The Dredge?
No, the oil rig adventure horror game.
The first-person horror adventure.
Something about the deep.
Yeah. Still lays the deep.
Still wakes the deep.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But this one, these two the center of this game story is the relationship between these two characters, and that is really the best part of it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, all of it is, though. When you start going into the towns, you start talking to these people who have been dealing with I thought it was great, man.
It's an interesting world. It's a shame we'll probably never see it again.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it almost bankrupted these guys, this game. It literally almost caused them to close down, sadly. This is one of those games, if you see it on discount somewhere, pick it up. You'll be pleasantly surprised, and you'll thank Matt and I later. But it is one of those games that just came and went. Nobody really gave it a chance. I feel like we did a pretty good job of championing it, though, on GameFace.
I feel like we gave it a fair shake.
Yeah.
But it's just, you're either interested or not, especially for $70.
It is a bit of a dreary-looking game.
Yeah,
it doesn't maybe not appear all that inviting.
And it's definitely not an upper. And maybe this should have come out in October. Maybe it should have been a spooky season game. I don't know.
I mean, looking at it now, it's like a no-brainer. Like, they definitely maybe should have waited. But you know how it works with fiscal and blah blah blah. And
you got to get the revenue when you can get when the revenue is expected.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my runner-up. My pick for the best story of 2024 is not Metaphor. Everybody picked Metaphor. Everyone thinks Metaphor has the best story.
I think that's kind of crazy. I did not find Metaphor's writing to be very good.
Here's the thing about Metaphor. its underlying messaging, I agree with 1,000% because there are underlying messages in that game that are very like anti-fascist and like
for sure. I just don't think.
But it's just too ham-fisted.
Yeah, it's very anime.
Even as somebody who
clunky.
appreciates that messaging, I felt like it beat me over the head with it.
Yeah.
It's just too overt. And so my pick is Life is Strange Double Exposure. And this game is
which I did not play.
You didn't play.
So.
And why I really like this game, one, the writing is great. Like, this whole opening sequence with her friend is, like, amazing. Like, a lot of times when you're playing this game, you wonder if, like, what's happening is relevant to the story or if it's just fluff. But everything in this thing matters. It all ties together. The other thing about this game, they challenge themselves by creating these dual realities that they tell stories across. And a lot of times when games do that, there ends up being all these discrepancies where you're like, oh, well, they totally screwed that up. Like, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to do that in this reality, then what happens in the other? There's no plot holes like this in this game. Also, it reintroduces you to characters, beloved characters that you missed, and they do it in a very compelling and fascinating way. Everything's believable about how she's, now that she's an adult, she's moved into this new place where she's trying to create a new life for herself after all the stuff that happened, but she can't run from her past. Like, I remember when we reviewed this on GameFace, I mentioned the one scene. I hadn't finished the game yet when we talked about it. I mentioned one scene where, like, she's at her apartment, and there's this box that says, like, all my memories that I don't want anybody to see. And I kind of laughed at that at the time. Later on in the game, you start to understand why that scene is there. And so even some of the stuff that when I first played the first few episodes, I was a little shaky on, later on, the game shores that stuff up. It makes it solid. So I love the characters in this. I love the writing, the voice acting. I love the setting. I love the premise. I like that it did the dual realities while finding new angles on it and doing it in its own way. I love reintroducing myself to these characters that I missed and I loved before. To me, the best story of 2024 is Life is Strange Double Exposure.
And I would also say that the other game I didn't play that would maybe be relevant in this category is 1,000 X Resist.
I saw a lot of people talking about that.
A lot of people have put on
We should say that we have not played that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are saying it's the best. And I haven't played it, so...
And I wanted to get to it before we did this, and I just didn't have the time for it.
That's the other thing I should have said.
I bought it. I have it.
Oh, I don't even have it.
I just didn't get to it. I did not have the time to get to this. 1,000 X Resist and Indica are my two big regrets of not being able to get to before we did this.
And usually when we start these awards, I bring up at the show open, I didn't do it this time, that we don't look at our awards as like the definitive, this is the best whatever. Because we're just two people. And when I had a full team of guys and girls that were playing stuff and writing stuff, I felt confident saying once we all sat down in a room and 12 of us argued over stuff, that whatever we chose was the winner. But when it's just me and it's just Matt and we don't have a chance to play everything, it's foolish to say that our picks are definitive. These are our picks.
Except Balatro.
Yeah, that one, everyone else is wrong.
No quarter given on Balatro.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. Next up, Best Cultural Crossover. We have a brand new category for our awards this year. This is it. Basically, we are rewarding anything cultural around games. A board game based on a video game, a TV show, a film, anything around video games that isn't actually a video game. I don't know why it took us so long to add this award. We should have done it a long time ago. But we decided to add it this year. And Matt is somebody who is a huge purveyor of video game culture. What is your pick?
Well, I partly picked something that I liked a lot, partly picked something I knew you wouldn't.
Okay.
So my pick is this, which is Mass Effect, the board game, Priority Hagalaz. This game, let me see.
Slide it into frame there a little better, There you go.
There you go. This is a tie-in game to Mass Effect 3. It takes place during Mass Effect 3. You'll notice it's called Priority, like the missions are in 2 and 3.
Yep.
And basically, you go to a planet called Hagalaz, and you have to deal with Cerberus stuff and Reapers. And you have to have, your team is 4 people, and no matter how many players are playing, you have to play 4 characters. One of them is Shepard. And you get to pick between Garrus, Rex, Liara, and Tali. Sorry, Thane fans. And you basically go out on it's a 5 missions campaign, and it's all done with dry erase markers. So you go out and you You pick your first mission. You pick one of 3 choices where to land on the planet. You finish that, and then you can either go to a loyalty mission, which unlocks an ability for one of your squad mates, or go straight to the next mission. If you do that, you just skip the loyalty mission. Then you can do another loyalty mission if you want. You can skip that. So theoretically, you just play 3 missions, and you're done with the campaign. And then you can go through and pick different paths through that however you want. Different characters, they upgrade, they get new skills, etc., etc. And it's a really interesting really interesting game. Like the way it's kind of a tactical, almost turn-based strategy, kind of combat RPG, but you have different objectives, and you can. Every mission has a Paragon objective and a Renegade objective. Renegade is faster and easier. Paragon is harder, but gives you a better bonus that you get to carry on through the rest of the game. And there's a big little storybook, like a choose-your-own-adventure book, where you turn to different numbers and like find out what happens next. And it's like a nice little revisiting of the Mass Effect universe by Eric Lang and Calvin Wong-Si-Loon, who are 2 of the top game designers in the board game space. Eric Lang made Marvel United and The Others and Blood Rage, if you've ever heard of those, some of his big things. And as such, they got top tier talent who love Mass Effect to come make this thing, and I think it makes a pretty good representation for the game. And a lot of times, board games made out of video games suck. Just
trying to cash in.
Board games made out of video games are often these days considered like what we used to think of as movie licensed video games.
Oh, interesting.
Like that's the closest.
Interesting.
Thing. But every once in a while, one sneaks through and it's really good. This one's pretty good. The new The Last of Us: Escape the Dark just shipped from a Kickstarter that's like a year late. That turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
And Slay the Spire turned out pretty good.
Interesting.
Which makes sense because the video game of that is basically just a deck building.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So you very directly translate the cards and
yeah.
you're fine. But yeah, this is of all the things that the games have tried to infiltrate in board games this year, this is the one that because I love Mass Effect so much.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised that this was like, oh, this is actually all right. Like, I'm kind of into this.
If Matt tells you that something is the best board game of the year, for in this case, the best board game based on a video game of the year, believe him.
Yeah.
Seriously.
To be clear, this would probably not make my top 10 board games for the year.
Yeah.
But
as far as for our purposes,
and in terms of if you're trying to relive Mass Effect, because I don't know if we're gonna see another one.
Starting to look dicey.
Yeah. But this is also dicey. You roll lots of dice. There you go.
Silksnake says, Matt, friends want to play that over Christmas. I'm a board noob. Could I participate easy enough?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's just a dice placement thing. You have your character sheet has slots for dice, and there's custom dice in it. And you at the beginning of the turn, the first player in the turn rolls 12 dice, and you can get the bonus for Paragon is you can get more dice. That's very important. And then you do 3 moves. You take and they have different faces come up. You take a die, you put it where you need for an attack, for a hacking thing to open a door or whatever, or to run and do over here, or like knock an enemy over or whatever. So you take those 3 dice and put them and do your actions, and you're done. Next player gets to keep one of the dice if they want, and then they re-roll the remaining 9. And so the last character only gets 3 dice. And then the first player marker for the next round moves to that last character. So now they get all 12 for the next round.
I see.
And it kind of rotates around. So you're all cooperating and you're all working together, but like you have to factor in like who gets the most choice in action and who maybe has to just live with the results. And that can get real
dicey.
That can get real tense.
That's great.
I will say if you've never played if you're a board game noob, my suggestion would be to pick either Garrus or Rex, because Rex is a giant tank that just takes damage and deals damage. Very easy to understand.
You can make mistakes.
Garrus is a sniper, which means you're not going to have to get into the mix too much.
Nah.
You're going to be able to stay out of harm's way and not feel like you're a liability because you keep getting hurt. So whichever one of those sounds more like your style of play, like just get in there and smash stuff and don't worry about it, that's Rex. If you want to stay out of the way and just do huge damage from a distance and be the MVP because no one else could take that one guy out and you can do like 6 damage from like 14 hexes away, like that's Garrus.
Okay.
So those would be my 2 suggestions. Don't play Shepard because Shepard's more complicated.
Okay. That's kind of like Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals. I was talking about last week where I was like, oh, the guy you want to play should be easy.
Yes,
but
Garrus is your Punisher.
There you
basically.
go.
There you go.
Fair enough. My pick for best culture crossover and I think it's probably everyone else's as well, is the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I knew I didn't need to pick this because
you knew I would.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. It may be my favorite TV show right now, period. Like, I am more excited for the second season of the Fallout show.
Currently shooting.
It is. Than I am excited for the next and final season of Stranger Things.
Oh,
I know for you, you don't like Stranger Things.
I have dental appointments I'm more excited about than the new season of Stranger
Most
Things.
people like Stranger Things, though, and I do too.
I think the worm is turning on that.
A little bit.
They put that one poster up of like she's alive or whatever, and I was like, who is that?
Yeah, which one?
I don't know who that is.
That's funny. Anyway, the Fallout TV show is freaking amazing. Like, it is that good. If you haven't watched it yet, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I think most people probably have, and you know how awesome it is. So
there was like I saw some consternation about it winning Best Adaptation at the Game Awards over Arcane. But I'm like, if you're going to really take that word adaptation as key to that, Fallout is absolutely the best adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
It adapts that source material and puts it up there on the screen and makes it feel just like it. Whereas Arcane is so good, it's very hard to believe it has anything to do with League of Legends.
I know.
So I think Fallout gets that one. I think that's a fair choice.
Yeah, it's a great show, and I love it, and I can't wait for the next season. I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way as it heads to Vegas.
Yeah,
which is pretty exciting.
Even better.
Yep. Okay, so
I know Jonathan Nolan has played New Vegas.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that's going on. You're talking about people. It's being made by people that really love those games.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. We've moved out of the genre awards. Now we're in pretty much all the really fun awards. At least I think they are. And next up is... Oh, I just scrolled too far. Next up is Future Legend. People always ask us what this category is. This is basically a game that we think 20, 30 years from now, people are still going to be talking about. Whether it's for good reasons or bad reasons or just crazy reasons, what games or products do we think people are still going to be talking about decades from now? Matt, what is your pick for Future Legend 2024?
Concord.
Yep.
People remember the fiascos.
They do.
People remember the bombs.
Yeah.
People still talk about Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
The Western that ended Westerns. And ended Michael G.
People still talk about Daikatana.
Yeah, 100%. So I think this, arguably the biggest failure in the history of the medium. Certainly in terms of consequences and money lost and jobs lost and decisions poorly made and the gardener could have told you not to do this sort of stuff. Compounded by the fact that the secret level short that is in the secret level,
the anthology show,
it's entirely new characters, so it's clearly was supposed to be the launching point for like the second year of the season, and now it's just like this weird dead relic of just like, what is this thing? Like, this is going to be mentioned in the same breath as things like Daikatana and all those things for forever.
Someone brought up Duke Nukem Forever in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just...
Duke Nukem is indeed forever from Emperor Dread.
Whatever you think of this game, one way or the other, I'm not saying it was necessarily so bad.
It's not a bad game. It's really not.
But it's just a singular moment in time. I almost also picked it as our biggest news story thing.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's like so tied in with so many other problems in the industry and the sustainability of things. And, the idea of throwing so much money into something that could or could not catch on in a crowded market, and then compounded with the fact that, after all the talk of like, well, it's just a super crowded market and the hero shooter's kind of over because Overwatch can't even make it, and then Marvel Rivals comes along and it's just like, oh, no.
Yeah.
You make a good game and attach it to the biggest IP on the planet next to Pokemon, people will come, right?
Yeah, people will care.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a tragedy.
It really is.
It's a tragedy.
On a lot of levels, yeah.
And that tragedies last.
People remember
that.
They sure do. No doubt about it.
And then I also, I was going for that because I thought you might pick what you picked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to go for the biggest negative. So Shane can go for the biggest positive.
And that is Balatro. I really don't think there'll ever be a sequel to Balatro. I think Balatro will go on for decades and decades.
Yeah, what do you do?
It's like, why would you ever make a Balatro 2?
Just add things.
They're just going to keep adding and expanding to it. I think this is going to end up becoming like Solitaire one day, where it's like maybe even this thing that's pre-installed on your laptop or whatever, if the laptops even exist in the future. But I think it's just going to become this thing that eventually everyone's heard of, everybody knows what it is. It's only a matter of time until it invades the mainstream and people start having it on their cell phones, and it's just a thing that people do, just like playing match 3 puzzle games on their phone. So I think Balatro is an enduring brand, an enduring idea that never gets old, it never gets tired. People still play poker, and they're going to play poker until the end of time, and this is a really fun and cool way to play poker. So to me, Balatro, on the positive side of Future Legends, is my pick for 2024. And I don't feel like I need to even defend that all that much. If you've played it, you already know. Yeah. you already know.
It's just, it's the flip side of sort of the worst stories of the year, where like all the, we lost tens of thousands of jobs this year in the industry and all that. Meanwhile, and everyone's going around looking for, EA doesn't want to support small teams anymore. Ubisoft is looking for the next big, there's all these idiot giant publishers trying to come up with the next $1 billion idea out of a boardroom, and one guy makes a poker game roguelike that sells 4.5 million copies. And that is a good reminder that no $1 billion IP has ever come out of a boardroom. It has always come out of a small team making something they care about.
Yeah.
You did not get Doom or Quake or Diablo or any of those things out of some corporate focus test. Never happens. Yeah. And as long as EA and Ubi stop supporting, Ubi doesn't do that. I mean, you talk about Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown, something like that. But especially something like EA, if you're not funding those smaller teams, you're not taking those risks with those smaller games, you're never going to get anywhere.
You're never going to hit the jackpot.
You're never going to have another
You're
jackpot.
never going to hit the jackpot. No. Nope. I agree.
Even Balatro even teaches you that, because you have to stop. You before you start making scientific notation, you have to get 300 points in that first small blind.
Yeah.
And there's a lesson there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. My pick for Future Legend, Balatro. Next up, Most Pleasant Surprise. This is a game where we had low expectations, and it ended up being way better than we ever thought it would be. Matt, what's your pick?
I have to give this one to something that I thought really never had a chance of being good, which is the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Yep. Capitulation on this one.
Yep.
Because you really were not into this at all.
No,
you really thought it was going to be terrible.
I really didn't think it was possible for anyone to remake Silent Hill 2 and not have it come out as a pale shadow.
I was very confident, though. I mean, I picked it, third or fourth in the draft? Something like that?
Yeah. But no, this turned out really good.
It really did. Yeah, Bloober Team did an amazing job.
This almost got considered for me for best story.
Yeah.
But I just had a hard time giving it to something
because that's one thing that didn't change.
It didn't change
in the
that
game.
Much.
Yeah.
I do appreciate how they tweaked some of it and it modernized it, and it's not as awkward and weird,
embarrassing in certain places. Yeah.
But you really are working on the bones of something that's 2 decades old.
Yeah.
So it didn't quite make it for me. But this is. I think this is a better game than the original.
Yeah, I think definitely. Yeah. I don't think there's any question.
There's not something
it's not even close.
And the only other horror remakes I've been able to say that about, I think, have been the Resident Evils.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see this one, which Silent Hill, a lot of times I've considered them better than their contemporary Resident Evils. Yeah. Although in terms of kind of mind and market share, they always kind of felt like they were playing catch up all the time.
Different kind of game.
It's George Romero versus David Lynch.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Actually,
different way of approaching the genre. Yeah. But the Silent Hill was my favorite before they ruined everything after 3. But it's just nice to see this come back in a playable form where you don't have to jump through weird hoops to play this or bust out your PS2 or something.
Yeah.
Really fantastic, and I don't think really loses anything in the.
It doesn't. I mean, I think it adds and enhances in most cases. Yeah, it did a great job. And my guess is Bloober Team has as much work from Konami as it wants going forward.
Yeah, I would like to think. I would love to see them do the first one.
Yeah. Yep. My pick for Most Pleasant Surprise of 2024, and I think this, I think most people are going to pick one of these 2 games, and my pick is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. There has never been a truly great Indiana Jones video game until now. There was a point-and-click game that was decent.
Fate of Atlantis was pretty good.
All of Indy's other games were either abysmal or so bad that they were canceled and never even came out. There was the N64 game that they ended up releasing for
It was a Blockbuster exclusive.
Yeah.
It was some kind of exclusive thing, and then you had to order it by mail.
Yeah,
the only
you
way to
couldn't
get
go
it.
buy it. Yeah,
I do have that.
yeah.
I
Which
mean,
it might be worth a lot of money.
It's
point.
worth a fair amount. I've played all the Indiana Jones games that have ever come out, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is easily the best one. I do think Fate of Atlantis is pretty good, but I'd say in terms of LucasArts adventure games, it's like the fifth or sixth best one. It was early. It was kind of a template a little bit. And beyond that, there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Also, this game is so much different from what Machine Games usually does. It usually does first-person shooters, and so and obviously there's first-person elements in this game, but just both quality of the game, the fact that the story is as good as the films, the execution of the game by Machine Games, all of it pleasant surprise to me.
Troy's impression of Ford, nailing it almost the whole time. Like I wonder how many times he re-recorded.
I don't know.
Over the years where he'd be like, I wonder if there were times when he's like, oh, I got better. I can do that one line better. Let me come back and redo that line. The other thing, I'm like, could we get Troy to redub the Disneyland ride? By any chance?
Because it's bad.
Yeah. That's awful.
It really is.
Really not
That's
good.
a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, and no disrespect to whoever the guy was doing that, but there has never been an Indiana Jones voice impersonator as good as Troy. And hell, I would like to see a remake of Fate of Atlantis with him redubbing stuff. Put him in everything.
The cool thing about this game is that there were lots of pleasant surprises inside the pleasant surprise. It's like a snowball rolling downhill for surprise. It's freaking awesome.
Which is what an Indiana Jones story should be.
It kind of is, yeah. I love this game. If you guys haven't played it yet, go freaking play it. As I said earlier, spend $20 for a month of Game Pass. Play this game. You will not regret it. I promise you. Next up, most disappointing. This is the game that we were really excited for that ultimately did not deliver on our hopes and dreams. This one, we also have the same pick, and this one was also very obvious to me, and that is Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
There were certainly worse games this year, but there was nothing that I was expecting to be great that
ended
fell
up
short
being
in the same
very
way.
average, yeah. Playing this game was not fun. It just wasn't fun. Like, it was weird. It's like this adventure game where they were like, well, we need to put action in it somehow, so let's create, like, almost these fighting game scenarios that will just plunk down in the middle of the game. It almost reminded me a little bit. What was that arcade game back in the day? Pit Fighter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where you just have these scenarios where it's just you with this FMV graphics with like 5 dudes, and you fight the 5 dudes, you move on to the next one. I felt like this game was kind of like that. Obviously a gorgeous game, a very pretty game, but not a very fun game to play. And ultimately, very forgettable, Matt.
Yeah.
We were hyped for this game for years waiting for it to come out. And then it comes out and we played it. And at first it lasted like 6 hours or whatever. And then when it's over, like it just didn't stick with me.
It didn't make really much of an impression in the way. I mean, the first game stuck with me for a long time, in a lot of ways. And part of it was this just felt too much like the same.
Same, yeah. Like the psychological stuff in the first one made a huge impact, but in this it was like, it
doesn't really feel like they took it to the next level on that, other than visually.
El Guapo says he's surprised he didn't pick Endless Ocean.
I feel like I kind of already did that. I try not to repeat my most disappointing with my turkey.
Yeah. For obvious reasons. Yeah. And I didn't. I didn't duplicate mine either.
Yeah, Endless Ocean would also be certainly in the running.
Yeah.
But I feel like we already talked about that.
Yep, we sure did. This game deserves it, I think.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Ninja Theory, but spending that many years working on a game that's 6 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care how long it is. I want it to deliver on what, it should be the length it needs to be to tell its story and to get across what it's going to get across. And honestly, this game felt a little long.
Yeah. Seriously, at 6 hours,
like,
it
kind of
was
wore
too
out its
long.
welcome.
You're right. It's true. Yeah.
And that's bad.
Yeah. I mean, particularly for Microsoft and Xbox, which, people waited so long because we're waiting for all these exclusives to show up, and it shows up, and it was disappointing.
Save us, Obsidian.
Yeah. I think it's gonna. I think it's about to. Okay, next up. Biggest news story. And you can interpret this however you want. Is it the one that everyone's talking about? Is it the one that impacts the industry the most? we're free to interpret that however we want when we make these picks. And what's your pick, Matt?
This is the one I think that is going to be most relevant going forward in a lot of ways, and this is the SAG-AFTRA strike. Against the AI voice acting. Because it is going to become more and more prevalent, it is going to become more and more insidious, and is going to become more and more horrific as they try to push humans out of that industry to save money, and we are stuck with games that have voice acting that wouldn't even pass in the Sega CD era.
Yeah, you can tell.
You can always tell.
And eventually it may get better, but right now it's blatantly obvious when they use AI to do stuff like this.
And you're hitting a point where you're already seeing there was another movie studio or VFX studio that this week that basically over the weekend that basically said they'd replaced 85 people with 2 AI algorithms. And it's like, I guarantee you're not going to get anything out. That I can't remember what the Sora, I think, was the name of the AI that supposedly can generate movies, whatever. And they finally let outside people get their hands on it a week or two ago. And the one guy came back. He's like, here's the best I could get it to do for a gymnastics routine, and it's just a torso spinning in midair. Like, it's never gonna work.
Yeah,
it's never gonna work. But tons of people are gonna be thrown out of their jobs, and we're gonna waste years with these idiots trying to like make this thing the next big thing where you can just play. And it's also sort of that thing of like, you should take note with this AI shit. Take note that the people that talk about, you'll be able to generate your own Star Wars movie, or you'll be able to tell it what you want your comic book to be, and it'll just make it for you. That is the definition of refusing to grow. Yeah. That is the definition of not wanting anything that ever challenges you.
People don't care,
That is the definition of not being engaged by the work. That is why art exists, and that is what it's for, and that is why you love your favorite things, is because at the time you engaged with them, they challenged you and taught you something about yourself or changed the way you see the world. Roger Ebert always used to say, when you judge a movie, think about who you were and what you carried with you into that theater, and think about who you were and what you carried out. Yeah. And if it changed something about those things, it was probably a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And no one seems to want that. The people that are trying to push AI, they don't want that. They just want replications of content, recreation of what they already know. And that is the death of creativity.
Well, they want to make incompetence competent.
Right.
They want people who are not smart, not creative, to be able to work on a level playing field with people who are smart and are creative.
But they never will.
But they won't.
You can't.
Right now, it feels like half of the videos on YouTube are AI.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is you have people who live in some cases, third world countries where English is their second language. And now they just use AI to write the script for the video, and then they have AI voice the video. And in a lot of cases, you can have AI edit the video. And then you go, and it's crazy. You'll go to their channels. They'll have 400,000 subscribers because people just suck it up. It's like, oh, it's another video of giraffes. Seriously though, I agree with you.
So yeah, I think they made the right move trying to, preemptively strike against this, and it doesn't seem to have really, even though they came to terms, the studios are already violating those terms in different ways. So I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. I think the fight against having AI made crap is going to be a constant thing. If Musk really does found an AI generated game studio, you're going to see slop on a level that I just can't even fucking describe to you. Go watch that cat trailer from the Game Awards
and see what we're gonna get,
and look at what that is. Look at what garbage they are looking at there. And then go look at the Steam page and look at the AI written captions for all this, and just the word salad, the nonsense. The fact that you can't get a sense of what this game... They say it's an MMO, but there's nothing in any of that to indicate any kind of idea of what the gameplay will be, why it would be massively multiplayer, or what you do online with it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing you're looking at. And I don't think it'll last. I think it's just going to be a very dark time. We have to sort of slog through and find the real games in it. Just like I think movies and TV are going to go through a similar thing. But in the meantime, I think you're talking... That's one of the first real ground battles of that war, was the SAG-AFTRA strike this year.
Yep, we got to pick it up because we're running out of time. My pick for biggest news story is Concord. And the reason I picked Concord is because I feel like it encapsulates all the things that are going wrong in the industry right now. the push towards live service games, the focused testing of ideas to try to come up with game concepts, the Me Tooism, the fear of doing anything different or doing something creative.
If you want to say layoffs, but you want to pick a specific thing, this is the specific thing.
And all of it factors in.
All of it.
All of it. All
Anything
the things
that caused layoffs this year, you can find that issue in the
this
Concord
game.
situation.
Yeah. And the ironic part of it is the game isn't bad.
Right.
It's a passable, decent hero shooter, but it literally has every element of all the things that are wrong in game development right now. Even right down to the fact that it was in development for 6 years or however long it was. All of it is bad.
Or really just game production. You know, we should remember that the developers don't call those shots.
Right.
Those are the people running the companies.
Yeah.
You know, no one on Concord was the one making the stupid decision.
No. So anyway, for me, Concord encapsulates all the issues that the industry has right now, and so therefore I could have picked individual news stories about little parts of Concord. Instead, I just chose Concord because also to your point earlier about Future Legend, this is going to be a story for forever. It is going to be the cautionary tale of how not to do things for a really, really long time. Next up, the worst game we played. I say this every year. We are not saying this is the worst game of the year. There are abysmal games on Steam right now. There are abysmal games on the Switch eShop right now. There are abysmal games everywhere. These are not the worst games. But this is the worst game that slipped into our purview that we convinced ourselves was worth playing, basically.
I never convinced myself of this.
No?
No. I mean, I had to because we had to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I knew this
You
was
knew
gonna
all
suck.
along that it was bad. And I think everybody knows what your pick is going to be. What is it?
It's Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Rocksteady. Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
But, like, this is just... I mean, I knew... You remember when I thought this was going to suck when they first started showing
you called
trailers.
it right out of the gate.
Just, I didn't... But I didn't know it was... I mean, I knew I wasn't interested, and I didn't think the premise and the theme was going to appeal widely in the way the Batman games did. I didn't realize it was going to be a terrible game.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought it was going to be
Something you didn't want to play.
Something you didn't want. Yeah. This game sucked.
It really does kind of,
just awful.
Yeah.
Didn't even last a year. We're shutting it down in January. And
Got
giving
to
everybody the
season 4.
offline mode people wanted from the fucking start. Like, what? Okay, so you could do that, turned out.
They could have done it all along, yeah.
Just the worst. I mean, wasted 8 years of Rocksteady's time, or however long it took them to make that thing.
That's the biggest travesty of it all.
Like, I don't know what.
I mean, Rocksteady could have made 2 great games in that time.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
And I don't know what you do to come back out of it. I mean, you just never mention it again. I
mean, I think Rocksteady just makes another Batman Arkham game and everybody forgets.
Maybe.
I mean, I would.
Would you? I'll try
I
it.
would play it.
Sure.
Yep. I think that's all it has to do. Just make another Arkham game.
Make Arkham Beyond and all is forgiven.
Seriously, I think that's all it has to do, and have it be decent. Even if it's not amazing, even if it's decent.
Yeah, even if it's just like Batman Arkham Origins level, I'll still take it.
Seriously, yeah. So I think that's a good pick. And then my pick, and it's not even a pick. This is just a fact. The worst game that I played this year was Visions of Mana.
That is also a good
and
call.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. The Metacritic for this is like in the 70s or something.
Yeah, it's like 72.
It is awful.
Way too high. Even as someone who has it on my stupid fantasy team, like, no,
this feels
dodged a huge bullet on that. That should have rated lower than Skull and Bones.
Oh, this is like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
This is one of those games where like you put the team together and you're like, yeah, this guy's really good with graphics. Yeah, this guy like designed a couple levels. Yeah, this guy's made some characters for some games. Let's get them all together and make a game. What could possibly go wrong? Visions of Mana is what could possibly go wrong. I don't know if I've played combat that's as abysmal and disconnected as it is in this game in the last like 15 years of playing video games. The characters are saccharine puke. The art style doesn't, like, the art of the characters doesn't match the world. Like, this game, I don't know how it managed to like cast a spell over people. There's people that think this game is amazing, Matt. If you dig around the internet, there are people that think this game is like game of the year, like caliber video. I feel like Square Enix still has some crazy fanboys, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean,
that are completely deluded.
I mean, I loaded the demo of this up, and I wasn't expecting it to be amazing, but I thought it was going to be a pleasant little time waster, like
competent,
like a Tales of Arise kind of thing. Something that's fun to play, or like that Grand Blue
fantasy
Relink thing,
Relink, yeah.
And no, this was awful. I just felt bad.
I can't believe Square Enix gave it a green light.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, there are people that like it.
Like the combat is just like. The only word I have for it is choppy.
Yeah, I just don't feel connected to it.
There was no flow. There was no nothing. It just I felt like I didn't understand how it worked, and then I'm like, no, that's just how it is. Apparently,
the design of the game is just like all goofy and weird. Everything about it is just a bad game. I don't know how people gave this decent review scores. I don't know how people say that they like it. All I know is it was the worst game that I played in 2024. Next up, the game we didn't get. This is our award. Well, it's not really an award, but this is our category where we find games that other people really loved. And maybe I should have used Visions of Mana for this. We find games that other people really loved that we didn't like at all. This is like our chance to say, I was completely off the reservation on this one, and I will fully admit it. Matt, what is your game that you did not get?
I think pretty definitively was Animal Well.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I don't get it either.
Like, I don't think this game is bad.
Yeah.
But, like, the praise this thing gets just baffles me.
I mean, I see it all over awards.
Like, I'm like, it was a entirely competent kind of, 2D pixel platformy thing in the kind of the vein of Super Meat Boy. And I played it for a while, and that was it. The fact that people, like, went so gaga over this thing is just fucking crazy.
I found it very frustrating, this game. I hardly enjoyed it at all.
Yeah.
I appreciate the art style.
Yeah, I don't have anything really negative to say about it, really, but it's like I played it for a while and I was done.
Yeah.
And I didn't really see the point.
But other people are treating it like it's something really special. I agree with you. I don't really see what it is about it either.
Like, I don't know what else to say. I just don't get it. Like games I didn't get is sums it all up. I just don't know what else to say. I like how the vines wiggle.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of like tech tricks that are pretty cool in this.
Yeah, the art style and the aesthetic of the game is cool, but then you have to play it.
Yeah.
And I just did not enjoy playing this game at all. I found it very frustrating and like very open-ended, but it didn't tell you enough about what it's asking of you, and I just didn't find it compelling enough to figure it out. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
We play a lot of games.
We do.
And so you get to the point where you cut bait sometimes. You're like, I don't have time for this. I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not squeezing anything out of it. And I don't want to keep playing. I don't have the time to keep playing it.
I got through a pretty good amount of the map on this, but I just, at a certain point, I was just like, I don't know where they want me to go now.
Me too.
And I'm sure I could figure it out, but I'm not.
I don't want
going to do that.
I don't care. I agree with you. Animal Well is a good pick. That was probably my runner-up. But my pick, and you guys all know what this pick is going to be, is Helldivers 2. It's a passable cooperative third-person shooter to me. I'll never understand why it became a sensation. I get the whole anti-fascism angle of it, and it's kind of like Starship Troopers, and everybody loves Starship Troopers.
Well, then you're ahead of a lot of people that play it.
Right. They're not getting that part of it. But to me, it was just a very unremarkable third-person shooter. That's fine. But this was a thing, man. It still is kind of a thing.
Still a big thing.
It still is. And I don't get it at all.
And again, I've been to parties and gatherings and stuff where people started talking about Helldivers 2 that I would never
it really broke through. It really did.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, I played it. I thought it was okay. Like, I was moderately entertained by it, but it also felt like a game that I had already played 20 times throughout my life.
It just has something to it. I don't know exactly how to describe. I mean, if I didn't have to constantly play games to keep up with this show, I could have seen myself playing this a lot. Like,
really?
I really do like it.
What is it about that snared you in?
I don't know. It's just annoying enough that like it feels like you're up against these weird odds that every time you don't get killed, it feels really satisfying to have escaped. There's times when you get thrown in with co-op with random people, and like you both, there's once they got past the whole, once everyone understood that everybody gets the items you pick up, you don't have to kill everybody to pick the stuff up. It became like everybody got really camaraderie.
No, that's the one thing I like about this game. I thought his community was great.
Yeah,
I was surprised by that.
And just like the weird things you can find, and like there is something like weirdly compelling about the
there's the whole Chrome Hounds war
up,
going
down,
on.
down, left, right stuff to call things in. Like And like when someone else calls something and you're like, oh, that's exactly what we needed right now. And so it's like, I don't know. It's more than the sum of its parts in a weird way. Cause like, I can't refute anything you're saying about it. Like, but it just is. Like, I don't know what else to say.
And like I said, I don't get it. Some people get it. I did not get it. And I'm somebody who plays a ton of shooters. I must have played 30 third-person shooters this year, they were all unremarkable.
There is
the
just something when you're walking, when you're walking up through the dust, like the dust clouds, and you start seeing the robot eyes and the lasers,
the glowing eyes,
you, and it's just like, there's nothing quite like it.
Interesting. So anyway, there you go. Those are the games that we did not get. Next up, a big award, Best Platform, and this is basically us saying like, what was the platform? PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC. PlayStation VR 2 that we felt had the best year. And generally how I usually do it is mostly software. What exclusive software did I get to play on that platform that I couldn't play at other places? But Matt sometimes has different theories on that. It's kind of open-ended, but we're going to pick our platform. What's your favorite platform for 2024?
I mean, it's easily PC.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear why. Because I got a PC, obviously. I built a gaming PC this year. And when we were doing, was it last week's episode or the one before where we were kind of looking at the releases for each platform?
Yeah.
I looked for PC and like, I could not find any really huge PC exclusive games from the year.
Yeah, but every single game is better on it.
Yeah.
That's why the platform's better.
But
I don't care about exclusives.
It's always been that way. That means PC would win every year.
Correct.
I'll never do that.
I will. Unless it's a year where basically PlayStation or Nintendo have an amazing run of exclusives, and they've done that. Like Sony and Nintendo have had years where their exclusive lineup beats whatever I played on PC.
For me, it's like, okay, I build my PC, but it's like I've started asking for codes for PC because I have this new gaming PC that should be better than my PS5. But like, for example, Stalker. I install Stalker, I go to play it, I'm getting like banding, I'm getting like the screen's tearing the whole time, and then I have to go and search online and try Google Stalker 2 screen tearing, and then you find like 8,000 threads you have to read through to try to figure out how to get rid of the screen tearing. And I just got sick of it, and I said, F you, I'm gonna go play it on my Xbox Series X. I go play it on my Xbox Series X. Does it look worse? A little, but it does. There's no screen tearing, and I can just play it. Like
Stalker 2 looked fine on my computer. So it's like I didn't have anything.
But this always happens to me, though. I'm playing PC games. I always have to like Google stuff and like figure out there's some weird INI file or like
that doesn't happen to me.
It's not better to me. That's not better.
It wouldn't be better to me either, except it doesn't happen to me.
Why is that, though?
I don't know.
Because it happens to everybody else.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. That's PC gaming.
It's PC gaming.
Or you have to go download a driver.
Every single game I played this year on PC worked just fine out of the fucking gate, unless it was broken, needing a patch. See Star Wars Outlaws, or the ray tracing on Indiana Jones wasn't in for the early access stuff, which is a whole other issue. In terms of paying for early access, that's probably not platform specific.
Yeah.
Everything works pretty much fine. The most stuff I have to do weird shit with.
But you've complained all year long about stuff you were doing on PC games, Matt.
Like what?
Just like, oh, they ported this to this and it runs like crap, and now we have to wait 2 weeks for some other patches coming out. Like, you talked about it all year long on this show.
I can't remember an instance of
all the PlayStation games that come out on PC, they don't run right.
Yeah. Well, I don't get PlayStation games day one on PC. That's true.
Yeah.
Like Horizon Remastered worked fine. But Horizon, when it launched on PC, was unplayable.
For me personally,
Last of Us Remastered last year was a terrible launch. But I didn't get that until this week.
Yeah. For me personally, I'd just rather avoid all that and just play the console version.
That is not a factor in my PC gaming. 90% of the time, it just works. Sometimes you get weird little things like the fact that, control issues, or they don't remember to put in
that's the other thing, like the controller doesn't work right.
But like the only example I can come up with this, if I was able to finish my sentence, is Infinity Nikki, and it also doesn't have Invert Y on PlayStation 5. Because I looked into I was like, maybe I will play this on PlayStation 5 because the control options on PC suck, but the control options on both platforms are identical, and I don't know how that I don't know how that happens in 2024, and B, I don't know how that passes Sony's cert.
Yeah,
that seems
like
weird
I would
to
consider me. PC if it had a bunch of exclusives, games that I could only play on PC. But I struggled to find any.
I don't care. It's the best platform I own.
But then you're missing all the other exclusives that are coming out. I'm not missing
any exclusives. I play those on those platforms. I own all the platforms. I play all the exclusives.
But I'm saying when you're comparing PC to the other platforms, you're not getting those games on PC.
Don't care.
Okay. I mean, you can pick whatever you want. I just the reasoning just isn't working out for me.
Well, I don't understand. What am I supposed to not have a PC instead?
No. Why would you say that?
I would pick a PC over any other platform. If you only let me have one, PC.
I would definitely not.
The only thing that would possibly change my mind on that would be a Nintendo platform, because that's the one thing I will never get to play on PC.
Yeah, they will never release
other than emulator shit.
Yeah.
is Nintendo.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
Almost everything of importance on PlayStation will come to PC from now on. Although I'm very curious if Astrobot will make it. If that feels like.
I think it will, because that hasn't sold very well.
Maybe, but also like it's so
it doesn't match.
integrated into the PlayStation idea that it feels like it'd be weird to put. I can't
remember a 3D platformer that ever did well on PC.
That's also true.
Platformers
have never been a PC thing, really.
They aren't that popular at all. Period. We're finding out with Astrobot.
True.
It's Game of the Year unanimous, and people won't buy it.
True. I really wonder. I mean, there's no way to know. There's no way to find out. I really wonder if PCs were as 3D capable. In the era of like Banjo-Kazooie and things, like when the height of that, N64 3D platformer
Voodoo
height,
2
like would they have been popular on that platform if they had been able to do them properly? Because it felt like that was just not a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I used to use the Ultra HLE emulator on N64, and I would play it on my Voodoo 2 card instead of my N64 because the jump was gigantic.
Oh yeah,
it's like night and day.
It's weird how that's always a Nintendo thing. It's just like, if we can play it on the PC emulator, it's so much better on the Dolphin or maybe, and people do that with the Switch too.
Okay, well, I think you explained your perspective on PC. My pick is PlayStation 5. Believe it or not, is my platform of the year for 2024. We talked about this on the show either last week or the week before. We went through all the exclusives, and I was blown away to see that PlayStation 5 by far had the best exclusives of pretty much every platform. And it wasn't that
Finally,
Sony made them.
Helldivers wins you over.
And it wasn't even that Sony made them. It was the third parties that they were commissioning to make exclusive games for their platform. So, I was surprised that, in my opinion, it was the best. And then you start talking about how PlayStation handled the 30th anniversary with all the hardware and the celebrations, and it did release an updated version of the PlayStation 5 this year, although it doesn't seem like it's really caught on very much. But it's just as a hardware platform, it had the best games. It also updated its hardware to become the most powerful console on the market. So my pick for best platform of 2025, for the first time ever, 2024, for the first time ever, I am giving it to PlayStation 5. I think Nintendo has won the last 3 years or something like that.
I think the Pro launch was a bit of a black eye for them, because like none of those upgrades other than Rebirth really felt like they justified
you have to squint.
anything.
I mean, you can watch their own videos right here. They're like, squint, Shane.
Look, slow-mo.
Seriously. They like tell you you're going to have to squint, basically, by these videos. I hear you. And that's just like the extra on top of the fact
like
that
the Pro stuff will pay off later.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to explain. Basically, you're buying a Pro to prepare for GTA 6.
Yep.
And I will also say I went to look for the PlayStation VR adapter on their website, because I'm like, I guess I should finally get that, and you couldn't do it. They won't ship it to the United States, and so I'm on the phone with them for like 3 hours.
I did the same thing.
You know what I ended up doing? I went to eBay and bought one for $12.
Really?
They're all reselling them for like $15.
They sent me one. It never showed up. I never got it.
Just go on eBay. And
I went through the whole process. They're like, okay, you'll see it within 2 weeks. It never came. I never got it.
Go to eBay. They're up there for $12, $13.
That's exactly what I'll do. It's like, it wasn't worth the hassle. I spent an hour
Don't
on the phone.
fucking call Sony and stay on hold for whatever. Just go buy one from eBay.
So there
I don't know why I didn't do it in the first place.
Best platform from Matt, PC. Best platform from me, PlayStation 5. Next up, best graphics. Something that probably was a bigger deal back in like the late 90s or early aughts.
Although honestly, this was a competitive category.
It was like big time. And I'll just let you know, like, one thing I tend to do in this award is, this is the first time we have a runner-up, is I try to pick one that's like for the art, and then one for like technical. And you can do it however you want. That's just generally how I do it.
I did not do that. I just picked what I thought were the best technical.
Fair enough. What's your pick? What's your runner-up actually for
runner-up is Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I keep sending pictures of this I take with my phone off my computer monitor to my friends, and they're like, "Are you in the desert?" I'm like, "No, that's a fucking bit. That's the
Indiana Jones game." Yeah, it really does look good. And I just watched some footage last night of the game after they released the ray tracing. Oh my god.
Yeah, big deal.
Oh my god.
I mean, I played for the first 2 days without it because it wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
And they patched it in. I turned it on. I think I was standing in one of those shiny rooms in the Vatican, and I'm like, oh, that's what that's supposed to look like.
Oh, it's insane what a difference that it made.
Yeah.
I was shocked by it. But the game, even without the ray tracing, looks
No, it still
freaking
looks very
amazing.
good.
It really does, man. Everything about it. Like, I didn't know machine games had this in them.
Mm-hmm.
They've made, like, decent-looking games in the past. Nothing that was, like, top shelf. But you can just see also, they had so much time to make this game. Like, they've been working on this game for a while. Like,
they had
all the
the
little
time to make it
details
right.
in every room. Like, every room is, like, perfectly set up.
Because Troy said, I think 2018. They've been working on it since 2018.
Yeah, you can tell.
It shows.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, man. Like, if you don't believe us, just go watch some more footage of it on YouTube or go play it. Again, spend $20 for a month of Game Pass and go play this game.
Just let them keep doing these if they want to.
Yeah. And then my runner-up for best graphics, and this is definitely an art pick, is Metaphor ReFantazio. This, to me, is like the most memorable game as far as visuals are concerned, and this is all like pre-rendered blah, blah, blah crap. Mm-hmm. This isn't the in-game stuff. But this game really stands out from an art perspective, even right down to just its UI. And look, P Studio has always been good at this, like creating this unified look across a game that permeates every corner of it, including like the UI. Nobody does a UI like P Studio. But it's just, there's lots of cel-shaded games. There's lots of games that have a cartoony look to them. None of them look this good.
To me, this is just Persona again. It's just them doing what they do.
I think it looks different than Persona, though.
A little bit, but like it's just the menu design in particular.
It looks more
pure Persona
3D than Persona. Persona tries to create almost a flat, like almost like cartoony look to it. This intentionally adds depth to the characters, I think, anyway. I agree, it's similar, but I do think it does enough to stand out on its own, and I do think it's one of the prettier games that I played this year. So my runner-up for best graphics is Metaphor ReFantazio. Also, as you get further into the game, the enemies start to get a lot more creative and interesting. I felt like the demo didn't really do the game justice in a lot of those ways, but still, I think it's a very pretty game and a very unique-looking game for 2024, so it's my runner-up. And then what is your winner, Matt, for the best graphics of 2024? Actually, it's our winner, and it is
Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2. The best look. Now, I was reluctant to give this game this award because it's letterboxed. I was like, it's kind of cheating. Like, I feel like they couldn't get it.
It really isn't.
I mean, do you think they would have got it to run full screen?
They didn't get Indie to run full screen.
Yeah.
If you switch Indie to 21.9, you get more picture.
Interesting. I didn't know
the framing is different.
I didn't know that.
So,
wow.
There you go.
Interesting. Okay.
That's just what happens when you letterbox. If you want it, I mean, it can be a creative choice.
It can be, yeah. Letterboxd or not, this game is freaking ridiculous looking. Like, seriously, the character models and the fights and all this, and the lighting in this, just amazing. Like, it really is like I feel like it's almost like a tech demo more than a game in some ways.
Bit. Like, there's some of that. I mean, the first one kind of felt like that, too. Well, actually, the first one felt more like a tech proof of concept because to prove it, you could make something that looked that good with the amount of money they spent on it.
Yeah.
That feels like that wasn't an issue here.
Yeah.
But, it is gorgeous. I mean, even as bored as I was sometimes, I'm like, wow, that sure is pretty.
It's ridiculous how good
not
the game
pretty, but it's just looked real.
Some parts are really dark, and it's hard to see what's going on. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's almost like photorealistic at times. It's almost creepy.
Yeah. And there is a cool thing about seeing such weird, magical, realist, fantastical things portrayed so starkly real.
Yeah.
Like when the giant things come out of the ground and stuff, and you're like,
oh,
that's just what that would look like.
Yeah,
like
seriously.
There's no stylization, and I think it's just like stark, like naked realism of what this thing would look like
in reality if it really existed.
And there is a power to that.
That's absolutely, yeah. It's the best looking game of 2024.
Yeah.
I don't
it's one of the best looking games I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even running on Xbox Series X, not on a crazy, powerful PC. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous game. So there you go. Best graphics of 2024, Senua Saga, Hellblade 2. Next up, most innovative game. And we have a runner-up for this as well. Not exactly, and I feel like, Matt, this category may go away soon.
Yeah.
Because it's just not a part of
it's not
development
really,
anymore.
It's iteration now.
They're too afraid to really innovate. So a lot of times these games are smaller games, and in fact, all 4 picks are
They are
smaller
smaller
games.
games, yeah.
And what's your runner-up for most innovative?
Empire of the Ants.
Yeah, we just covered this a couple weeks ago on the show.
Which also I had in the running for best graphics.
Yeah.
But this is a real-time strategy war game where you play an ant, and they find a way to adapt kind of the RTS mechanics to being like kind of it runs more as like a you are the commander, and are sort of giving, so it's got a little Total War element to it, except imagine Total War, but you are on the battlefield, and have to kind of find a vantage point and like tell people where to go and stuff. And they make it work really well. Like it's like a weird combination of like Total War, Ant Hill, and Pikmin. And it looks great. It's a little repetitive once you kind of get the thing into the swing of it, but there's nothing else like it.
Yep. So there you go. That's Empire of the Ants. My runner-up is Balatro, and the reason I didn't give Balatro the win is because of something that I mentioned earlier in our awards, where I said that like I feel like it's very cheap and easy to just turn anything into a roguelike or a roguelite, either one. And just say, what genre has not been turned into a roguelike yet, and then create it. And I'm not saying that's what he did for this, but it is a very simple tactic to create a very unique game, and I think we're going to keep seeing it in the years ahead. We talked about a roguelike racing game, a roguelike sports game. There's still genres left out there, and we may get those next year, but this year it was poker, and it is very creative and very unique, and I think the creativity in this goes beyond just that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
bunch
bunch
to
of
execute.
Right. And you have to execute. Plus, there's other stuff in this that makes it innovative other than just saying it's a roguelike poker game. So anyway, it was almost my winner instead of my runner-up, but the reason it was not my winner is because it does feel like turning any common genre into a roguelike is sort of low-hanging fruit. So still very innovative, but I ended up having another pick for my winner. But Matt, your winner was
Balatro.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's as simple as like slapping roguelite on whatever, especially because every time I tell someone who doesn't know about this game that it's a poker roguelike, they're like,
what the hell's that?
What the hell is that? Like what I don't even know what that would be.
Yeah.
And so like it's not that simple.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm joking about the roguelike driving game, but I also don't know what that would be. I mean, if anyone wants to come up with that, I will certainly
Somebody
play
will.
it.
I guarantee you someone will.
So yeah, I think this is a bunch of stuff that I never would have thought, even as someone who knows poker pretty well. It does stuff with it and takes advantage of it and recombines it with stuff that I know. And the Joker stuff all the Joker things are so creative.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you get a new one pop up, and I'm like, I never would have even thought of using it. And then you figure out like that combines with this thing, and you're like, is that really how that's going to work? And then you're like, yes, I'm getting thousands of extra points every hand because I put these two things together.
Yep.
And this is an amazing. Oh no, I lost and I don't get it anymore. It's like, and that is the addiction of Balatro.
It is. It absolutely is. And then my winner for most innovative game of 2024 is The Plucky Squire. Not perfectly executed. Not one of my favorite games of the year. And I would also argue that maybe this is one of my more disappointing games of the year.
Yeah, it was definitely on my short list for disappointing game.
But it is also incredibly innovative.
And they patched it.
To do what?
It's not as wordy. There's an expert mode, basically, that doesn't tell you where everything is. It doesn't pan the camera over to show you the open door.
Oh, really?
It basically says, like, hey, if you know how to play video games, we got all the hand-holding out.
Interesting.
So there's a mode where you can play where it doesn't waste all your time telling you how the game is played and telling you how the puzzles work, and it just lets you go.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of my major complaint about it. So I'm like, maybe I need to play this again.
Yeah. Well, what's innovative about this game is, one, it takes place in a storybook, and the way that they work around that is really cool about how they turn pages, and like you get on one page, you have to find a way to get to the other page, and the page is turned, blah, blah, blah. The other part of it, though, is that it is a 2D and 3D game, and eventually you leave the book and you go into the 3D world around the book and play levels in 3D. And the way that they then, once you go into 3D world, they still have 2D elements in the 3D world where you become like one with like the wallpaper in the 3D walls and can move along the 3D objects. So the concepts in this, very creative, very innovative. However, I would argue that the eventual end product was not as fun to play and interesting to play as I hoped it would be before I got my hands on it. But still, there's no denying that the concepts in this game are something unique that haven't really been done before. Also, the whole part of the book where you're using the gestures as puzzle-solving elements It's very, very innovative, but again, not executed as well as I hope. So it's not like my game of the year or even a runner in the running for game of the year, but as far as most innovative game I played, it definitely wins that ticket. Okay. Only a few categories left. Next, most anticipated game of 2025. This was very hard, but Matt, after a lot of consternation and a lot of Google searching, we both came to the same conclusion for the runner-up.
Oh, I didn't need to search anything for this.
Oh, really?
Easy.
Yeah.
Very easy.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't making a mistake, basically. And our runner-up is the same, and it is Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah. All the hate, the delay.
Only makes me stronger.
It really does. It seriously, it hasn't deterred me one bit from this game. I am all over this freaking game.
I love Assassin's Creed. I love samurai stuff. I love ninja stuff. I love open world stuff. This is all the boxes.
Yeah.
Like I got you. There's no way you're keeping me away from this game.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And if you have been dissuaded from this game because of the internet, first of all, shame on you. You need to go to different places of the internet. But second of all, you're making a huge, huge mistake. This game is going to be really, really good.
Unless it isn't, in which case, I mean, it's Ubisoft.
No, I think it's going to be really, really good.
I think so.
I mean, they just gave them, an extra 6 months to just polish crap?
Yeah.
Which they never do.
Look, if
Assassin's Creed.
if this game isn't good, it's not going to have anything to do with what the internet's saying
right.
about it.
Yeah,
that's my
That's
point.
a good point. Yeah. Regardless, I am jacked up to play this game. We don't have to wait all that long to do it. It's going to be out in the first quarter of next year. Wish we were playing it now. Unfortunately, we're not. But I think in the end...
I'd rather play it in a better condition.
Me too. Yeah. For first blush. Absolutely. So... for both of us, this is our runner-up for most anticipated game of 2025. And then, Matt, I was surprised by your winner for most anticipated game of 2025.
Yeah,
that is...
I mean, keeping in mind that I usually am more anticipatory of things that are immediate and going to come out.
For sure,
It's Avowed. The previews on this are basically through the roof
in
a way that I really didn't expect them to be.
I've been shocked.
I love a good immersive RPG. I like what Obsidian does. I like what I see of this. I like the Pillars of Eternity universe, and I think the cover is one of the best covers in years. Like the weird mushroom fungus multicolored thing is great. Like that's an amazing piece of work. And I'm in. I'm all in on this. I hope it's good.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you haven't been using SIFTD lately or whatever, but if, to Matt's point, the previews for this have been like over the moon.
Yeah. Like I really didn't think this was going to make that kind of impression out of the gate like that.
They just did around like a week and a half ago or whatever. I couldn't believe what I was reading. People were like, man, this is like literally like Game of the Year caliber. So we'll see. But I mean, a lot of people I respect wrote a lot of really positive things about this game. And I'll just leave it at that. So Matt's...
it's just the right kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
And like just the fungus stuff and the boot to the head and thumbs up. I hope it's good.
Yep. So Avowed for Matt is the most anticipated game of 2025.
Two February games. I'm not looking too far ahead. That's
and I'm going to be that guy. My most anticipated game is Grand Theft Auto 6. I think most people probably that's the case. I'm not even like world gigantor GTA fan. It's just that anytime some of the most skilled people in the industry work on something for like 13 years, I'm like, I got to check that shit out. So
the first game ever that could possibly be Game of the Year and the most disappointing game.
You're right.
Somehow it could do both of those things after all this time.
I mean, if there's one game that I can't wait to play more than any other, just to see, it's Grand Theft Auto 6. Because, man, like, it's been over a decade in development. It better be awesome, man.
Oh, yeah. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
Like, call me after the first gameplay
Because it could be delayed out of the year.
Well, that too. But also, like, call me after the first gameplay video.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know any. I mean, we can assume a lot of things about it, but we haven't seen any, apparently.
I mean, chances are, after the gameplay trailer, it may not be my most anticipated game.
Maybe.
I mean, that's part of the game,
but
right?
Then there's people that claim they've seen stuff that say there's stuff in this game, gameplay-wise, is going to blow your fucking mind out the back of the wall.
We'll
so,
see.
Like, who knows? Who knows?
And then I also want to give an honorable mention here to Switch 2. Like, if there's one product that I would want to play more than any other product, any gaming product this year, it's checking out the Switch 2. Nintendo hardware, always going to be way up here for me because it's actually one of the last left that will do something interesting and innovative and creative with this hardware. It doesn't look like it's doing that.
I mean, we saw it this week.
It looks like it's going to be
in that little case that got, I'm like, there's your fucking reveal.
That's really disappointing.
Wow.
If that is real, it's really disappointing. But
the CEO of the company said it was real.
I know.
So
I know.
That's just a slightly rounder Switch.
I know. I'm still excited, though, to check it out. So
I mean, I did consider putting Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah,
in
me
here,
too.
You know, but again, just don't know enough about it right now.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, there you go. Those are our most anticipated games, and now we have reached the pinnacle of the SIFTD Game of the Year Awards for 2024, and it is our Game of the Year. It's that time. We have a runner-up for this category as well. Matt, what is your runner-up for Game of the Year 2024?
Well, Cult of the New is in effect because it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that at all.
And I would never have thought that would be, I would like it as much as I did.
My most pleasant surprise. Yeah, I can't believe how good it is. It's really awesome. Like, it really kind of opens up.
It took me like 3 hours to admit to myself how much I liked it. I was like, this is really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I have to finally
admit it.
that this is really good.
It also makes me look at like the future for Xbox in a different light because they own Machine Games, and Machine Games just made this game.
And I'll tell you this much. I know kidding. I know 3 different people who the only reason they haven't bought an Xbox right now is because it's coming to PlayStation in 6 months.
That's a shame. I think they made a big mistake.
They might have should have kept this to themselves.
Yep. I think that might be the smarter strategy, period, Matt. Yeah. I think as Xbox starts getting to the point where they're putting out games like this consistently, I think it's going to regret the multi-platform stuff. It gave up on the old model, so I guess it makes sense, but this game could sell consoles if it was exclusive to Xbox. It absolutely could.
At least 3. I can tell you firsthand.
Touche. So I totally get that. However, my runner-up is different, and I will say that Indiana Jones was probably my 3rd pick. But again, I spent so much time with this game this year. My runner-up is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I can't believe it, and I'm sure you guys can't believe it either. That there would ever come a day where a 3D Final Fantasy game would be one of my picks for Game of the Year. But this game is just that good. They did that good of a job with it. And again, I'm not a big Final Fantasy VII fan. I don't like freak out when the big spoiler from the game is shown on. So I don't care about any of that dumb crap that other like Final Fantasy fanboys care about. It's just a really good action RPG with interesting characters, interesting settings. The setting is constantly changing. If you don't like someplace, you're never stuck there for long. It has tons of gameplay variety, which is something that really resonates with me with 3D platformers and why I like that genre so much.
We're still on most anticipated.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because you just never know what's around every corner in a 3D platformer. I feel like that vibe, that aesthetic, is alive in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as well. I just felt like I never knew what was going to happen next. The plot, obviously, I kind of knew what was going to happen. But even then, they did a good enough job that it kept me guessing if they were going to keep things the same or if they're going to change them. I just had a blast with this game. I played it for like 60 hours. I never got tired of it. I power finished it right to the end. My runner-up for Game of the Year is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I can't believe I just said that with my mouth. I just can't even believe it. And it is a little bit of a testament to the quality of the games this year as well, I think.
Yeah.
And now it's time. Do I have a drum roll sound effect on here? I don't think I do. I do not. But if I did, I would play it right now because it is time for us to announce our Game of the Year for 2024. And Matt and I both agree that the Game of the Year for 2024 is Astrobot. It just is. It is the best video game of 2024. I don't care how many people don't buy it. I don't care how many people do buy it. It is the best game I played this year.
This game would make my top 25 of all time.
All time. People don't get it. Like, I can't believe only 1.5 million people have bought it. Like, they just can't get over the exterior, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's hard.
I don't get it. This is everything video games are supposed to be to me.
Think about those moments when you're playing video games that you really like, and those moments where you're just kind of overcome by how awesome it is, and you just smile. And you can be sitting there by yourself in the dark at 3 a.m. There's nobody around to see you. Nobody cares about what you're doing, and you can't help it. This game is just loaded with those moments. Like every 30 seconds that was happening to me. They figured out with this game these little things that games do that get your heart going, and they just do them over and over again. Like every once in a while I talk about some of the more rote stuff like that they do, like the birds taking off when you come up over a hill and all the birds fly away. This game doesn't have the cliche stuff like that. It has all the other stuff that just moment after moment, it just made my heart jump. It made me smile. It made me happy.
And then 2 hours later, you're playing one of the button challenges, and you're cursing the lineages of everyone who made the game in the most obscene language you can think of.
But then you finish it.
Oh yeah,
and it feels very, very good.
I mean, I platinumed this game in 3 days.
It is. I don't know what else I can say about it. Like if you watch the episode of GameFace, I don't know if you go back and watch every episode of GameFace we ever did, if you ever would see us review a game where we were more enthusiastic than we were for Astrobot. It is that good, and I don't know why y'all are fighting it and won't buy it. Trust us. We've been doing this for 30 freaking years, man. If
you have a PS5.
Yeah, we have played every game ever, and we are telling you that this is one of the best games ever. Just go buy the game. You will not regret it. It's a shame that this game has only sold 1.5 million copies. If we don't get a sequel because people are like, it's too cute, well, that will effing suck, man. It will really effing suck.
I think winning a number of Game of the Year awards will boost it through, in Sony's opinion. Sony has put more time and money towards worse results. Team Eco.
Look, what is Silksnake? Unless you're a huge PlayStation fan, wait for sale. Why? Why would you say that? What do you not like about this game? Look, Veritas, I stand by if this had no PlayStation. I don't care about PlayStation themes, dude. I literally do not care at all.
Strip all the PlayStation out of this.
It doesn't matter. Why are people trying to convince themselves of this, Matt? Why? Why? Why are you guys trying to shit on this game? You haven't tried it. Why are you building up these lame excuses for why other people do like it? Haven't you said to yourself, gee, why is it the unanimous Game of the Year for everybody? Except for you, apparently. What the hell, man? I don't get it. Ugh. Anyway.
Can you dress up as other characters? Yes, you can. Minority games.
Who cares? That doesn't matter.
There's a lot. Well, he's asking because he wants to be able to do it. Not everybody's your enemy. Chill out. You have PlayStation themed and just general dress up themed items you can put on Astrobot. Yes, you can customize Astrobot pretty extensive. He's got 20 or 30 different costumes.
I don't know. I didn't even care about the costumes. I just like playing the game. I didn't care what he looked like.
All right, but I ask a question. Yeah, you want to sell a game to somebody and they ask a question, what you can do, I'm going to answer the fucking question.
I don't know, actually.
You can change the look of Astrobot. You can change the look of the controller you fly around on. You can change the look of a bunch of stuff. That's all you unlock all that stuff as you play through the levels.
It's incredible. It's one of the best games I've played in years. And I don't know. It has tons of variety. If you like pretty much any type of gameplay style, it does it at certain points in the game and does it very well. It's a 3D platformer, and that's why I love 3D platformers, because they can do pretty much any genre that they want inside the context of the game, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess if you hate 3D platformers, it's not going to do anything for you, but
if you like doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to hate it. I don't know what to tell you. Game of the Year, easy. And there's a reason why it's everybody's Game of the Year. So you can tell yourself it's bad or whatever you want, but...
Is it? Who hasn't done their... What are the major places haven't done their Game of the Year yet?
Nobody. Everybody put them out very early this year for some reason. It doesn't seem like Game of the Year awards. It feels like they've lost their luster because there's just so many people doing them now. Like back when there was 5 outlets and G4, it carried more weight. But now everybody does them, and so I just feel like it's just diluted the impact of them in a lot of ways.
They creep closer and closer to Black Friday. Because it's like, how come you don't do them? How come everyone does the Game of the Year stuff before the end of the year, before everything's come out? Because the reason anybody in corporate cares about Game of the Year stuff is because it's basically a shopping list.
Yeah, you also want to get it out too.
We used to do the Game of the Year stuff on X-Play and Extended Play in January when we came back from break, because then we played everything and we basically were ordered to start doing it before Christmas, because the point to the publishers and the corporate people here's a list of the best games of the year that you can go buy now for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's the point of it. That's why they happen so early now.
The other thing I would say, too, about this game is that watching silent B-roll without a controller in your hand is way different
It is very
than
different.
playing the game, more than any other game.
The music and the
The
rumble
sound
feedback
effects
are very
and the
important.
controller, everything comes together to just create this magic.
Because it's just delightful once all that stuff is working together.
Yeah. Just incredible.
That's the word I keep using is delightful. It's
Yeah.
delightful. Astrobot is
It just
delightful.
made me happy to play.
Yeah.
I feel like we need more games instead of making us serious and angry and angsty.
I mean, I like those too.
I do
But, like,
too, but we need
But
peaks
one of
and
the
valleys.
reasons Astrobot is so good is also because it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Because you just don't get that much anymore.
Yeah.
For all the dark and depressing PlayStation exclusives, there's this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. What was the question you asked earlier? I was going to answer it and I forgot. I lost my train of thought.
The other major outlets that haven't done
Game
Game of the Year yet.
Yeah, why are they doing Game of the Year so early? It's for SEO. You
Yeah.
get your Game of the Year out first. Google picks it up. Anytime somebody searches Game of the Year, if you got out there first, and if you, at least a moderate amount of people read it, you're going to be first result.
But you know, I will say last night when I was trying to like put the rest of these together, and I was doing, and I started doing it just to see what I got after all because the Google searches were so useless.
Yeah.
And I was just putting like, adventure game 2024, and I was getting AI compilations of every adventure game over the last 15 years, and it was like the best shooters to play in 2024, and it's like Doom. You know, like,
No, you're right,
Like
yeah.
all-time great
It's
games,
all-time
but
greatest, yeah.
And I kept looking, and then I put the same thing in on Bing, and I got exactly what I wanted.
Wow.
Like, I'm telling you, the Google AI shit took up the whole first couple pages to the
know.
point that it wasn't even showing news stories on the Game Awards.
And it's listing games from like 5 years ago as the
and
best
you put
game
that
for
in
2024.
Bing, and I got lists of all the shooters that came out this year. I got like all the Game Awards nominees
Interesting.
and winners. Like it was instantly what I wanted. Google has just hit the wall at this point.
We do have one more category. As somebody who came from GameTrailers.com before I started Sifted, obviously I have an affinity for video game trailers, and we always pick a trailer of the year. And Matt got in on it this year, and our trailer of the year for 2024 is The Witcher 4, which we already talked about when we did our recap of the Game Awards for GameFace 416. We remarked on how incredible this trailer is, and it is amazing. It tells a story. It tells you what the game's going to be like. It introduces a new character. It's just fun to watch.
It's better than most of the secret level shorts. Like it's just, I mean,
It is, yeah. It's really great. So our trailer of the year is the debut trailer for The Witcher 4.
CD Projekt Red is
Pretty
much
good.
a debut trailer. Pretty good at the debut trailer.
Yeah.
These guys.
Well, that's good because we're going to be running that one for the next
Yeah,
like
we're gonna
3
see-
years.
You won't want that to get an award a year from now because you'll have seen it like 40 times.
Yeah.
It's all we're gonna have from that game for a while.
That's it, people. That's our Game of the Year awards for 2024. That is us putting the cap on 2024 as far as content is concerned. Well, not really. These next 3 days, I'm going to be busting my ass creating content for you guys to run while I'm gone for the holidays. But this is our last live stream. I just want to take a second like I did for the last episode of GameFace to thank all you guys for tuning into our streams this year. Thanks to everybody who's contributing to us in any way. And I mean any way. Even if you're just retweeting our tweets when we go live or that we just posted an episode of GameFace and it's free on YouTube. Any of that stuff. It all means a ton. We all appreciate it very much. Thanks, chat. You guys have been incredible all year long. You've made every single show we've done live better. There's no doubt about it. Other than when you guys are crapping on Astrobot. Anyway, I'm just joking. But anyway, much love to you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome holiday season. Again, if you want to buy us a beer for the holidays, go to donate.sifted.net. And I promise you, and if you watch my Twitter feed, when I get back to Pennsylvania, I will go to the beer distributor and I will show you the exact beer that I'm buying with the money that you give us for that. So we'd appreciate that very much. But regardless, have a great holiday season, no matter what you guys celebrate. Here's to an awesome 2025. I am personally very excited for 2025 for Sifted, and we'll get into some of that as we get into the new year in January. Also, just so you know, we will be back the first week of January. Whether we'll do this show or not, I don't know, because I'm going to be doing some work on this show. We're going to start streaming this show on YouTube as well as Twitch in 2025. So we have some stuff to do. We may take a week kind of hiatus the first week of January to do all that stuff and then maybe launch the show in the second week with all the new changes and everything. So thanks, you guys. We love you guys very much. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Have yourselves a great holiday season and a great rest of 2024. Take care, guys. Peace.